Well, hey, everybody. Hey, I'm going to do something unique today that I hardly ever do. I'm going to open up a room to talk about politics. Granted, not an area that I'm that familiar with. So hopefully we'll get the people in here that actually have been following this scandal that's been going on with Clinton and her email servers. I do know a little bit about it. And many of you may know that they reopened the investigation today. Oops, one sec. One sec. Don't you hate when you get weird background music and you don't know where the hell it's from?
Oh, I thought that was just me.
No, it's me, but I don't know what the hell it's coming from. Oh well, I mean, I closed out a bunch of tabs, but no, I still got it going on. What the fuck? Okay, there we go. That should have fixed that. Anyways, and now I got to find all those tabs again. Shit, I had a bunch of things open on the classified information thing. Anyways, I guess what's happening is that they found some emails relating to the Anthony Weiner, whatever the freaking name is, investigation. And they found some more classified emails, and now they're reopening the investigation into Hillary, which I said before, obviously, I didn't think that this scandal was done. And so I'm going to read off a little thing here so people don't have to read it. But 11 days in the election, the FBI has reopened their investigation into Hillary Clinton's mishandling of classified information via BlackBerries using her personal private email server containing secret and top secret classified information. An initial FBI investigation determined that Clinton was extremely careless, but no criminal charges were filed, even though Clinton expressly denied ever sending classified material via her private server, which was not authorized to hold classified information. The FBI investigation determined that Clinton personally wrote 104 out of 2,100 emails recovered. But today, James Corney, director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, announced that new emails connected to an unrelated case, which I believe was the Anthony Weiner case, may also have contained classified information, and those emails are now under investigation. Now, again, I've said many times that the scandal's not done. I do personally think that she broke the law. And going into 2017, you know, are we going to be stuck in this quagmire that we already have a president that if she wins the election, we're going to be stuck in scandal already. I don't know if this is related to the WikiLeaks. I know WikiLeaks actually had disseminated some information the other day. I don't know how much of that was in there. They said it's unrelated. I don't know if that's true or not, because WikiLeaks, it's kind of weird that a day after WikiLeaks produces more email stuff, they say, oh, well, you know, we're going to reopen this investigation. And it's kind of funny because I said before this was any other person, they probably would have gone to jail or at least been severely reprimanded and had fines or whatever, because being in the military, if you've been handling classified information, you're screwed. Okay. It doesn't matter whether it's intentional or not. It's worse if obviously it is intentional. I mean, I put in the comment here. Maybe you guys remember Sandy Berger, where he tried to steal classified archives from the National Archives, classified files, and he got a $50,000 fine and 2 years probation, and he was stripped of his security clearance. And there's another guy, Major Jason Bresler, I think his name was, and he was discharged from the Marines for sending classified information over his private email server. Very similar. But the main difference is here is that Clinton's staff knew. They found out that they knew she was doing this. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. There's evidence to show that her staffers were well aware of this, and they were trying to find out who told Hillary this was, you know, okay to do. And even if Hillary wasn't knowledgeable that it was not the right thing to do, which I believe she had full knowledge that she couldn't, it's still mishandling classified information, and it could have been violated any number of executive orders, the National Archives Records Administration's violation, and Freedom of Information Act. So what I want to do is I want to open up a room today to get you guys to come in and discuss, you know, what you think this ramification is going to be. Is it anything to become of this? Do you think Hillary broke the law? Do you think she's exempt from punishment? Do you think she has special stature because of her political clout? Do you think it's going to affect the actual election? I mean, with 11 days out, probably not. I mean, I'm still thinking that Clinton has an overwhelming lead at the moment. substantial, probably double digits in most polls. But I mean, could this be a game changer? And is it something that, this close to the election, 11 days, is it going to have an effect? And what kind of effect it's going to have? So I invited a bunch of people to come in here. So the link is out there. Actually, no, the link is not out there. Shoot. You know what? I'm just going to put the link in the live feed. I don't care if this gets sniped. This is about politics, so screw it. So I am going to put the link in the live feed. Come on in. But I actually invited a bunch of people. But Isaiah, have you followed along? Did you read the news this morning about them reopening this investigation?
Yeah, I actually heard about it on some right-wing, right-wing.
They call that Fox News.
Point.
Do you get my joke?
What?
I said they call it Fox News, right-wing nut job.
No.
I'm just kidding. I actually like not Fox News. But, I said before, do you guys remember me saying that I don't think this investigation was over? I think that they just kind of did a very cursory one. It says, I can't clink your link. Well, why not? The link works. Lamed says, I'm not sure if anything can be done so close to the election. I agree. I think it's pretty well solidified that Hillary is probably going to win. But then again, if the next couple of days they come and find out that Hillary did commit a crime and, she is under indictment, would that change things if she became an under indictment? Or even worse, I mean, if they arrested her, can you imagine if she was arrested this close to the general election? You don't think that would affect on polls? Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I'm not advocating that I think she's actually going to get arrested, but the possibility could be existing, right? I mean, especially the fact that people have gone to jail over mishandling classified information. People have had multiple fines and released from the military and stripped of their security clearance. Now, if she's stripped of her security clearance, she obviously could not be the president of the United States. So that would be a game changer. Lament says, I'm more interested in the story about the $500,000 given to the wife of the FBI director. I'm not familiar with that story. At least I don't remember. But come on in, Lament, if you want to mention that. Yeah, and he says it would be interesting if Sanders was back on the ticket. That would be cool. But what do you guys think about this? I mean, the overall consensus so far is that it probably won't be a game changer, but it does go to show that most people do think Hillary did something wrong. I mean, even the FBI, when they concluded their investigation, they determined that she was negligent, that she did mishandle information, that there was, I think the words, what were the words they actually used? Extremely careless. Well, extremely careless means that you basically violated the law when it comes to handling the classified information, because it doesn't matter whether you do it purposely or not. If it's accidental mishandling, it's a crime. Now, do I think that mens rea has an effect on it? Yes. I mean, if somebody purposely does something with classified material, they should have a harsher punishment. But you can at the very least lose your security clearance by mishandling information, because that is a type of negligence. Okay, people are asking for the link now. I'm sending the link individually, but should I just put the link out there on the my G Plus? I don't care. See, Jade says, after Clinton, they can go after the 11 million missing emails from the Bush administration and look into Congress. I understand a lot of Congress members have been very sloppy. Yeah, you know what? That's fine too. I mean, I'm like saying hold all of them accountable. I'm just saying, is Clinton exempt, right? Do they think, because I get the impression that she seems to have this ability to be Teflon, that nothing sticks with her, because there's been so many scandals. I mean, the Clinton era was wrought with scandals. I mean, there's one scandal after another. And I'm not even mentioning like the current ones like Benghazi and other things, but it's just one scandal seriously after another. Can we have an administration that just doesn't have these scandals even before they even become president, for God's sake? I mean, it just boggles my mind that we have a political culture right now that everything is scandalized. It's because people are dishonest. Clinton is the most dishonest politician in politics right now. America knows this. I mean, the polls are overwhelming that her approval rating was shit. It was something like 89% against as far as her honesty level. Let's see. Lovely Kitten has sent me a link. Obama lied directly and pointed to nation about Hillary's email. No, I haven't read that yet, but Anyways, let's get some people in here. JJ, I'll get you. One sec, buddy. Oh, wait. How'd you get on broadcast? Oh, because I didn't have cameraman on. Oops, stupid me. I got to get that on. Oh, hey, JJ.
I'm magically on mobile.
You are. Nice.
I think it's
so what? Okay. What's that, Isaiah?
I think it's too close to the election to really have an effect on her.
I agree. I think that it is, unless there's something major happens. But JJ, what do you think?
What do I think? I think a lot of things.
About this. Don't get all trollish on me. You won't last long.
No.
Okay.
Well, as far as this new, I haven't seen this. I didn't know about it until I read the description in the video here, the YouTube description. And I agree that this isn't over. It wasn't over. If she were elected, it would be reintroduced with Congress.
It's got staying power. Would you agree?
Of course it does.
Mm-hmm.
The example related to Sandy Berger, of course, is a great example.
He didn't get any jail time. Listen, and what's funny, and I think he should have, but he didn't get any. Yeah.
Right, and that's what you will see is that I mean that it would be extremely embarrassing for the country, I think, is the perception, if Hillary Clinton were to be pressed further on this.
You remember Berger? He actually stuck the files in his pants, if you recall.
I recall how he was caught. Yes.
I'm like, really? Yeah, that's not something accidental. I mean, did he say something like, "Oh, they fell into my pants" or something? I don't remember.
And
but
of course, some ridiculous claim. And of course, the bigger story is not that he got caught, but why was he stealing documents?
No, I don't think I ever found out. Do you know? I don't remember, or I don't remember ever recalling.
I don't recall very well.
I don't remember
if it had to do with. I don't remember what they were involved in.
Somebody might know when they come in here.
But he was obviously not just stealing documents. He was attempting to obstruct some kind of justice, right?
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe there was some investigation that was going on or something. Was that it?
Oh, yeah, that's what they were related to. Were they related to Whitewater?
I don't know the specifics.
I don't remember either.
Yeah, I mean, these people all do obstruction of justice. I think if anything, Clinton has always been guilty of is obstruction of justice. I mean, that's our whole campaign. I mean, but I just was reading this article that LeMed students sent. I did not know about this, so this is kind of news to me. According to Daily Mail, which I don't think is the most reputable site, but Clinton headline fundraiser for campaign group, which gave $500,000 to wife FBI boss who investigated her emails. Now, you're saying, LeMed, that you think that they may have been bought off? That's what I'm reading here. It kind of implies as a buy-off. Oh my God, JJ, is that you or is Rumpus? No,
not me. Could be me. What was it?
Major noise.
What?
Just like major wind noise.
Oh,
or just background.
I may have been sighing.
No, it's current. It's like continual. Yeah, it's you. You got a lot. You wearing headphones today?
Yes, same as usual. But it's odd.
You got a fan? You got a fan on? You got a fan on?
No, the window's open though. So I mean, it's odd.
It's not that bad right now. What it was.
That this mic, that's for talking on the phone, picks up so much other things.
Yeah, it picks up a lot of ambient. That's for sure. Okay, so Rumpus, what say you on this?
I haven't really. I've just caught this story just recently that you're talking about the fact that the FBI has opened up the investigation into her email server again. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I don't know if it's directly on her per se right now. They've kind of been kind of vague. What they said that they found emails relating to an unrelated case that warranted further investigation in relationship to the Clinton email scandal.
That was it. It was a bit sort of obscure. Yeah. That's right. It wasn't quite clear, was it? That's right. Now there was a strange formulation. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, but I mean, it's not as though they found. Yes, it's just that they found some more emails, but it doesn't mean to say there's actually anything untoward in there. They just simply found some emails.
I think that's the claim. That's the claim.
But
there's something untoward, as in it's more improper usage.
Right. And here's the thing, though. Okay, knowing 11 days out from the election, right? These politicians, these guys in the
FBI.
FBI, and they may be ombudsmen who are like investigating this kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it seems a bit odd to do it now, now.
Right. That's kind of my point. It's like, unless they have something solid, right? It's two things are happening. They have something really solid, and they're just being vague a little bit on purpose because A, they don't want to affect the election, or they don't want to release it to the public yet till they have all their ducks in a row.
I mean, it could be that they have got these procedures about when they're doing things, and they thought, well, we're just going to ignore completely the political situation, or, which seems a bit, you would think they would want to consider the political situation. And so if they've done that, so the question is, have they done this knowing what the political situation is, or have they said, no, we're just going to pretend as though that's not happening? Which you would have thought, well, you know, that would be terribly sensible. So if they have considered the political situation, then they have thought, right, we won't wait for 2 weeks or something. We'll do it now, which is obviously going to cause a huge political stir. So it's unless they really are being ruthlessly sort of ignoring it, if they decided to do this in the current,
that's their job.
Yeah, but they must have realised this is a very politically sensitive thing, and particularly
absolutely.
Said,
but their job is to not consider that.
Well, okay, so
yeah, but I mean, as we pointed out, one of them might have been bought off. But I mean, we have to come to the realization that a lot of people in politics are corrupt, and so I don't really take these investigations too seriously as far as their inability to, or their ability to do it effectively. Right? I don't trust them to actually, unless there's a completely independent agency. I don't trust these investigations among politicians because I've seen from examples that people in politics generally don't get the same criminal punishments as civilians or people that are not on the political spectrum. They just don't. On the average.
Yeah, I mean, certainly think people like Richard Nixon obviously got away with it for when he was definitely guilty in Watergate of telling people to go basically and burgle the building, and that, in theory, that's definitely a criminal act to have inspired that, directed it, and he got away with that. And so
Kissinger got away with worse.
Yeah,
I think in I think there's always a degree of people getting away with stuff, but it in the Clintons' case though, it is all the time. I mean, just recently they have another thing going on about the controversy of Clinton's like $100 million funds that he used to generate revenue that was supposed to be strictly for
him, all right,
yeah, Bill. That was supposed to be used for other things, and yet they called it Bill Clinton Incorporated because he was using the money that was supposed to be for the foundation, and he made money on it, like $55 million with another $65 million in potential future income.
So
it's another scandal.
So he used So he got hold of some of the foundation funds, and then instead of doing whatever the foundation was supposed to, he took that away, and then
it's like $100 million, from what I understand.
How the hell
himself
these foundations get so much money? This is what almost amazes me. I always hear about these ex-presidents always forming these foundations. I think in this country, that just does not happen. I suppose you've got more money washing around the US with big corporations wanting to be seen to influence things. But even so, I'm amazed. $100 million, Jesus, that's just...
They're tax-deductible contributions.
I think the Clintons are worth more than your queen, dude. I mean,
I don't know about that.
Well, Hillary's worth like 31 million. Bill's worth like 100 million or something. It's like some ridiculous amount these guys are.
How much money is coming to the foundation? I mean, you're saying he's managed to siphon off 100 million. Presumably that means
no. I think he used 100 million, and then I think he made like 55 million off of that. I think is the way I read it.
Yeah, gave himself a grant or whatever.
I mean, I firmly believe they've been both Clintons have always been about money. They've always been about power. I mean, back when Clinton was in office, it was all about money and power.
Well, I saw on BBC Newsnight, which is a very reputable program, the other night, where they had the guy who did what was he? Well, two very interesting things have happened on BBC News. One, they had a Clinton guy who pointed out that she'd been through 7 years of investigations over Whitewater, and she had so many years investigating in the FBI about her email server, which they obviously until this recent
Whitewater, Vince Foster. Oh yeah,
and then nothing has actually been shown for her to have actually done anything illegal.
That's not true.
Trump,
I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all.
Okay,
a lot of things don't believe to be illegal. She just wasn't indicted on any of it.
Yes, but that's
that's the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, it's not the same thing.
She hasn't been charged of anything illegal.
Right, but I think that I think that she could have been, and I think they should have been, but she wasn't charged.
Yes, it's possible for her to have done an illegal act, but not been found guilty of having been charged. Right. With, I suppose. Yes.
Well, that's what's happened most recently with the emails, right? She's
so far, yeah.
She's admitted to doing something illegal.
Yeah, they said she did,
but she didn't mean to do it illegally.
They outright said that you mishandled. If they said you mishandled information and you have classified material on a server that's not authorized to have that classified material on, that is against the law.
The act of doing it isn't against the law, but it requires intention.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't, Jack. No, not
gross negligence.
No, it does not. Not when it comes. Mens rea is not factored in when it comes to mishandling classified information. It specifically puts that. It specifically says if you read about classified information, if you ever have security clearance, your mind state makes no difference. Okay?
Well, I'm just repeating exactly what Comey said when he suggested that the DOJ not pursue indictment.
Oh, that might be true. Yeah, and I believe that's one of the reasons they didn't. But according to the how you handle classified information, that makes no difference. If you fuck up, if I would have walked out of school with classified information, whether it was intentional or not, I would have been, captain's master, court martial, or whatever.
What I'm saying is that he said that there's two things to consider. That if there was an intention, a malicious intent, or if there was gross negligence. And he said that there was negligence, but it wasn't severe enough to pursue the indictment.
And to the first thing, that goes to the severity of the crime in this particular case, not the crime itself, because again, you don't have to have knowledge. If you mishandle classified information, that's against law. It doesn't require mens rea at all.
Right, that's just Comey deciding what was sufficient enough to be severe.
And I think that they were wrong on this. I think there's been far more people punished for far less severity of crimes relating to classified information. Far less. There was 2,100 emails that were classified, and she wrote 104 of them. That's huge. The Marine that was discharged from the Marines had far less. And he got discharged from the Marines. Now he didn't get jail time or anything, but he did get stripped of his rank, and I believe he got stripped of his rank, but he definitely got separated and lost his security clearance because of that. So
just for clarification, if I recall correctly, I believe a lot of these emails that are classified were later up-classified. They weren't classified at the time, but after the fact.
Some, not all. Yeah, some, but they had all been told that any things like this is to be treated as compartmentalized classified information, whether it's stamped on it or not, whether it has the actual heading that's designated classified, you treat it as classified, period. And then they actually stamped it.
Clinton may not recall that part.
Yeah. That's so convenient. She's not somebody who can get away with saying she doesn't recall anymore. I mean, she's been in the thing way too long. She knew exactly what she was doing, and they were warned. I think they were even warned when they had the whole BlackBerries, but they started with their independent personal BlackBerries, that there was going to be an issue with this. And then when they found out there was emails, they were asking around who authorized this, how this happened. And they tried burying it.
Whether or not you think that she knows exactly what she's doing, there has to be proof of that. And I know that's hard to prove. It's really hard to prove intent. But
again, the threshold is a lot less in this kind of situation with misinformation or classified information. If you whether you have intent or not, you should be stripped of your ability to handle classified information. Matter of fact, I think it was one of the Republicans, was it Pence, who said that he's not allowing her access to classified information right now until this is resolved. Is that something along those lines?
Pence.
I think it was Mike. Was it Pence or was it one of them? I can't remember.
I can't see why Pence would be in a position to say that. He's just a governor.
Well, maybe say she shouldn't be. What did I read on that? Somebody want to research that somebody had actually said that they're not allowing her to shouldn't allow her.
Maybe he said if he becomes the vice president, then he wouldn't allow her.
Whatever. Maybe. I don't care what Pence says, but as far as intent is shown in court, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a criminal act. You get indicted on the criminal act, and then you try to prove intent in court.
No, the intent goes with the indictment.
Well, again, though,
You assume intent because she acted. If they want to try to make you prove intent in court, that's when that happens.
I think she had, and again, it's irrelevant when it comes to this kind of topic, but she did know that these were classified information. She did know, and she actually lied. She actually said, "I never sent classified information over the public server," and then they found out that she did. So that was a lie. She knew that they were classified. There was no way that people could say she didn't know.
I agree
they're talking about classified stuff.
I agree that she lied to the public there. I don't think she ever lied to the FBI, but we don't really know that because it was behind closed doors. But I agree that she lied to the public there.
Yeah, but I would see that's the sort of thing I would have thought you wouldn't lie about because you know you're going to get caught out. So I believe that she honestly thought that she hadn't done anything wrong.
Okay, we're talking about Hillary Clinton here.
She just assumes that the public will never know.
Yeah,
well, that's possible, of course. Right. I mean, that's the. But you would have thought something that'd be so easy to, it's going to emerge.
She thinks
you wouldn't say that sort of thing.
She thinks all America voters are just dumbasses. I mean, do you guys remember her? She also got taped one time talking privately. Then she had a hot mic. And do you guys remember that little flap? I
didn't get that over here, or at least I missed it if it did happen.
What was she saying? She had a hot mic, and it basically she came off as a total bitch about how much she hated the wherever she was going to speak somewhere, and she just was ragging on these people, almost like they're inbred hillbilly kind of crap. I don't remember exactly what she said, but
I'm not familiar with that.
Here's a link. I don't know if that works for you. Oh, this is on YouTube, so that's a Newsnight. This is the second thing I was going to try and point out. The chap who wrote Art of the Deal, which was effectively a biography of Donald Trump. This was a book that
Tony Schwartz.
Sorry. Yes,
Tony Schwartz.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
He wasn't a ghostwriter. He wrote that book.
Exactly, but Trump claimed that he wrote it, and in fact, when the presidential campaign started up, he kicked off apparently with claiming to have written this very successful book.
Yeah, well, Trump lies too. Okay,
no, but this guy in this interview, in a very, very interesting interview, describes how Trump is a sociopath and is a compulsive liar and has absolutely no problem with lying deliberately.
But so does Clinton. So what do we do?
I would disagree. I would disagree that they're both psychopaths. The level of psychopathy.
No, well,
they're both narcissists too.
Well,
nothing
kind of psychopath.
Trump. There's nothing like this on Hillary.
I beg to differ. I think it's just the opposite.
Well, you keep
Hillary is far.
You can't say it's the opposite, Steve, the guy who was doing a Bobby spent a year listening to him making deals, and in this interview describes what a loathsome lying.
Do you remember back in the 80s? But do you remember back in the 80s? I mean, do you remember back in the 80s how many times the Clintons lied?
Well, okay, about
everything.
Tell me.
I didn't sleep with that woman. They lied about.
He didn't have sex. He claimed he didn't have sex with Monica Lewinsky, and he didn't.
He did have sex with her.
He said, I did not have sexual relations with that woman, which she did.
Yes.
Well, it depends what you mean by sexual relations, I suppose.
It all depends on what the word is.
Yeah, I know. Is. This is what I'm talking about. This is the type of scandal. I was like, when you have to let's define what the word is. I don't want that with the government anymore. We don't want to go back to those days with the 80s where we're playing nuanced games.
Get worse with Trump. Much worse. This guy lies as a matter of course.
So does Hillary. I'm telling you.
No, she doesn't.
Rumpus, she's the most dishonest person in politics.
Okay, give me two examples, rock-solid examples of her lying. Okay, the one about the servers, she claimed she didn't know that what she was doing, or the information on there was that she had what's her? I'm sorry, I haven't been keeping quite so much on the Clinton, but she claims that she didn't. Well, she certainly apologized for it, and there's an issue about whether or not it was classified. The information she had there at the time.
It was not something she knew was classified.
It was not something she should have been doing.
She said that she was okay. Here's a list of 7 things that she's lied about so far. That at first page I can find. Okay, she came out of the White House dead broke, but not only dead broke, but in debt. After they left the White House, okay, she had claimed that the Clintons were dead broke and in debt. Okay, no, they were worth several tens of millions of dollars at that point. Okay, she said that she was under sniper fire in 2008.
Okay, I agree with that.
Yeah, that was a naughty. Yes.
Well, you asked for evidence of lies. Here, I'm leaving the list out.
Well, that could have been misremembered. I mean, she claims
Misremembered.
That could have been.
Okay, but hey,
You
you know
can
what?
make that claim about anything.
Well,
Yeah,
true.
The fact
true.
she was.
You want to argue about
wrong.
her intent?
Right. We're
to
not talking about
deceive?
that. She was wrong on that. Okay. She also said that she was named after Edmund Hillary. Right. Well, Edmund Hillary didn't become famous after she was born, when Clinton was 6 years old. You guys remember that scandal?
I don't know. We didn't get that over here.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, I know you guys don't get a lot over there, but Hillary Clinton claimed that she was named after Sir Edmund Hillary. Right. The first man to climb Mount Everest. But that was wrong.
Not true.
But
Not true. Hang on. Let me finish. You asked
that
for
relies
evidence.
on what her parents told her, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree with Rumpus there.
Oh, wait.
She
No.
could have been told that when she was little.
You don't think she ever investigated when Sir Edmund Hillary climbed Mount Everest? I mean, come on.
I don't know.
I mean, this is.
If your parents tell you that, that's the sort of thing you then suddenly, it's one of those things you sort of
You
take.
could do a simple research on your name and see that you were born 6 years after he climbed Mount Everest.
But you see, these are sort of the sort of things. You see, you wouldn't.
All right, let's
about
not.
that,
Okay, let's not. Okay, you know what? Hang on, Rumpus. Let's not call them lies.
Probably a lie, though, Rumpus.
Time out. Let's not call them lies. Let's not call them lies. Let's not call them lies.
Confusing mistakes with lies, I think.
Let's not call them lies. Scandals.
Or falsehoods.
Or falsehoods. That's fine. I won't even call them lies. I don't care if they're lies.
I said falsehoods.
Yeah,
things that are false.
Yeah, things that are false. Okay, let's not even call them lies, but these are things we were dealt with. She said her parents were immigrants. They weren't. Okay. She said that she was turned down by the Marines when she applied in 1975. Okay, that was misinformation. She screwed up, I think, royally on Benghazi. She actually, what was it she said on this one? I'm trying to remember what they're saying.
I'm willing to forgive any untruths about Benghazi.
Exactly. I mean, the mere fact you raised,
I think those claims were blown out of proportion.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, but you guys are missing the point.
Bring up Benghazi.
It was a huge scandal.
Rather taints your position.
No, you guys are missing the point. It goes to the types of scandals that these people are involved with.
But it's not a scandal.
It was a scandal.
Benghazi was turned into a scandal by people harping about it.
It's
right?
still a
political
scandal.
enemies. I mean,
exactly. It's not a scandal.
It doesn't.
I mean, it's a scandal that's allowed to happen. You can argue, but it was not a scandal.
According to the Political Insider, quote, they say in regards to Benghazi, clearly the most reprehensible lie of them all. Clinton failed to tell the truth about a terrorist attack that killed 4 Americans in Benghazi. She claimed for weeks, standing over the flame-draped coffins of murdered Americans, that an insensitive YouTube video had incited the violence that occurred that night, and that was proved to be a lie.
Yeah, but all she knew was that was her information. That there'd been this YouTube video, and she's been told, as I understand it, that this was incited the behaviour, and she didn't know until later that it was actually an ISIS-inspired attack. I mean, that's just a simple error.
Well, you can justify all you want, but these are huge scandals that have been scandals surrounding.
A scandal. I misunderstand.
Benghazi wasn't a scandal?
No.
It was an attack by an ISIS. How is that a scandal of a terrorist attack?
She's been under. She was asked about it under a federal investigation. She was asking Congress about what happened.
Yeah, so she was asked what caused it, and she thought
that's a scandal.
Her information was that they'd been caused by the attack was inspired by people inspired by video. Okay, so that's the information you give. The fact that she got that wrong. I mean, what reason would she have for trying to say that it wasn't ISIS?
Because
there's nothing there to.
Rumpus, again, I'm telling you right now, you got to change your mindset, because I'm telling you, Clinton is a fucking liar and a half. She is the biggest.
Well, the thing is,
I agree with that. But bringing up Benghazi is
oh my God, what the hell is that? Oh, stop! What is that?
It taints your position.
Oh my God, I got a loud noise. Oh, stop!
Was it my voice?
No, oh my God, I don't know if something was playing. Oh my God,
I couldn't hear it.
No, I know you couldn't.
I think it's from JJ though. I think.
Oh shit, that was loud. Oh God, you open up something and it's like, I hate this fucking built-in multimedia shit. You open up a window, all of a sudden you got this fucking multimedia blaring in your goddamn ear. Who invented fucking Java? Fuck. Okay, go ahead.
I kind of want to defend Trump. Well, take it as you will, but I think he isn't as much a liar as we make him out to be, because I think most of the falsehoods that he says are due to his profound ignorance and not out of intentionally telling the falsehood.
Yeah, but he doesn't.
I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say.
I think, excuse me. He doesn't care. He doesn't even apply the most simple critical analysis of anything he says. He says what he wants to say, and he doesn't care whether
But
it's a lie or not.
If you want to talk about intent, though, it's very possible that Trump believes everything that comes out of his mouth.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Well,
I think
he
believes most of it.
Yeah, he probably does. Yeah. But I mean, again, when we're talking about the level of deceit, I do believe, and I believe very strongly that most of Trump stuff is just out of pure, lack of knowledge or ignorance.
The guy who listened to spent a year listening to his deals he made, came to the absolute conclusion that he was a deliberate and compulsive liar. In that YouTube video, which I recommend you, I'll put that in the chat.
But here's the funniest thing. I mean, until Trump ran for president, nobody had really that much to say about him. I mean, he wasn't thought of as dishonest. Nobody. I've never heard anybody.
Over here, I realized this guy is
again over there.
Wanker.
Yeah, I'm telling you,
it was so obvious he's an A1 wanker.
I believe very strongly that the media overseas doesn't give people the full information about what's happening.
They do.
I really don't.
We get our media is very objective. We have pros and cons.
I disagree.
It has to be balanced. It's not like Fox News that you get over there, one-sided stuff. We get all the stuff in a balance. And the people, if they want to, they all very keen.
Are you talking about your state-run media?
Yeah, BBC. Yeah, it includes. It's got an obligation.
Hey, they got Doctor Who, so.
Hold on. You may. Yeah, I know you've got this thing about state-run stuff in the US, and you think, oh, that's a bit. So, but the BBC is entirely separate from the BBC. Spends most of its time attacking the government. That's what it does most of the time.
Yeah, Rumpus. Sorry, I was trolling Rumpus.
Oh, right. Okay.
But I mean, I think like Tony put in the side chat, who in this room would not remember being under fire? I'm like, come on. I mean. I understand you're willing to give people the benefit of the doubt. But
I agree on that one. I thought that was a bit odd that you would remember that or not. But then I do remember someone explained it quite well as to why she might have got herself confused about one situation and another. I remember, this is a person, if you visit 100 countries every year or whatever. And But I must admit, that one's a bit odd.
Come on, when you're under fire. When that news reporter, Brian, who was it? God damn it, what was the name of the news reporter? It had a very similar thing, and he actually got castrated for it.
Oh, the one who claimed to have been on a helicopter attack or something. Oh, that's right. And that's right.
I want to say Brian Gumble, but it wasn't Brian Gumble. Who the hell was it?
No, it was Brian Williams.
Brian Williams, thank you.
And then he got kicked out of the
he's still on TV.
He was a very respected journalist up to that point.
Yes,
and he still is.
I think so too. But I mean, he got castrated for this.
I think he's a talking head. I don't have a whole lot of respect for him, but he's still generally considered a respectable journalist.
Can we all agree? Let's just go from here that both candidates suck. Okay, I don't trust either one of them when it comes to being president. How about we just leave it at that? I want to get back more on this email stuff though, because I think this is a big problem. I think. What kind of scandal?
You can't. You see, we don't know what's happened here. All we know is the FBI.
That's the point. What is happening?
So you're speculating.
Regardless of what happened,
what we're doing. We're speculating.
Yeah, exactly.
Regardless of what happened, the information that's been let out could obviously influence voters.
Yes,
correct.
Exactly.
Correct. Now, is that something intentional? I mean, is there meat on this story, or is it something to change the political spectrum?
Unfortunately, we can't know because we're entirely speculating about the context.
Well, let's speculate.
Well, okay, I'm speculating that there's nothing involved in here, and it's just simply someone, the FBI, giving out something as a continuing their progress, and it will turn out there's absolutely nothing here. Because if there had been these other,
you should probably get better informed before you say that.
I was asked to speculate by Steve. I would refrain from saying that, but Steve asked me to speculate.
Go ahead. You're fine, Rups. I got no problem with that. But let me ask you. Were you, when the initial FBI findings said, we're not going to go further, did you or did you not think that the investigations were done, it was over, it wasn't going to be brought up again, or that they weren't going to reopen anything, and there was a done deal? Did you think that?
Yes, I presume that had been the end.
I think I remember that you did. And I was saying the opposite, that I was saying, I've always said, you can go back to any of my hangouts, I thought this email thing was a huge issue. I was mortified that something didn't happen because of it, because of gross mishandling information. And that something, and I even said that even though the FBI said that they weren't going to investigate, there was other organizations that may have wanted to, but now it's the FBI again. The FBI, here's what I'm thinking. Look, if the FBI said, look, we're not going to investigate further, and all of a sudden they announce now something more to it, I don't see that way they would do that unless they have something meaty.
Well, they have to.
Yeah,
They have to
well,
they're covering their
and
asses.
Rumpus.
Because if they're covering their asses, Steve. Because if they do, they've been given some more emails before they process them. They've got to say, "Oh my God, we've suddenly got this more information. Now, what do we do with it? Do we say we're going to not admit we have to start investigating this or not?" So I think to cover their asses, they're going to say, "Well, yes, we've now got a new investigation in hand to make sure they're not told after." Because if afterwards something did come out that was in these emails, and then people say, "Well, hold on, when did you know about this?" And they said, and then didn't announce.
That might be true. They might be just covering their ass, right? You know, I mean, obviously, I mean, we all know this. That, you know, a lot of it has to do with the Anthony Weiner.
Yes.
However,
but it does relate to the Clinton email. That, I mean, they correlated with each other.
Because Anthony Weiner's wife is Huma Abedin.
Right.
Yeah, as well, isn't his wife her like
chief of staff or whatever? Yeah.
Chief of staff, right?
She's on her crew.
Right. And it whispers in her ear a lot. But it says right here, newly discovered emails found on a computer seized during an investigation of disgraced former Representative Anthony Weiner has prompted the FBI to make new inquiries related to Hillary Clinton's private email server.
They probably found his dick pics on her email server.
Hey, Hillary, want to check this out? Does that look good? You like that? Hey,
yeah,
you know what?
seriously.
Good for you, right?
I'm
forwarded his dick pics to her.
I'm sympathetic.
But Rumpus, with regards to this and the case being over, if you knew anything about the United States Congress, you would have realized that this would not just die like that.
Right, but I didn't think it was going to die, but I thought, you know, essentially the key points of it. But I'm so sympathetic to Steve's general thrust that, you know, Steve has had to deal with security and he knows, you know, it's not something you mess around with. And she, the Secretary of State, obviously had to deal with this, and she must have been familiar with the idea of you just treat this thing as, you know, I mean, Barack Obama wanted to keep his BlackBerry or something. He was told, "Oh no, you've got to use a proper mobile phone." So clearly, you know, security for that sort of level of politician, they must have been aware that you don't sort of mess with that. So she must have realised she wasn't doing the right thing, and it is obviously suspicious. And so I was prepared to find that she'd done something a bit naughty, but the fact they've been through 33,000 of these emails, she deleted that many or whatever it was she's supposed to have done. So obviously that's bad. But
well, let me clarify.
A bit naughty equals illegal in this case.
Tyler Durden, I love you, Tyler. I do. But you're wrong on this. Yes, Colin Powell did have his own private email server, but it was the server. It was Clinton's private email server that they were supposed to have gotten proper authorizations for, but nobody ever did the paperwork over on it. Nobody ever did the proper steps to make that server a secured server. It was Clinton's private email that these correspondence, 104 that she wrote herself, that went out on. So it did involve Clinton, and it was her private email server. Had they gone through the proper steps, which is a huge probably pain in the ass, it probably wouldn't have been a big deal. But nobody took it upon themselves, and then you know, now they're finding out that certain people didn't even realize what was going on. They're like, well, who told Hillary that she could do this? Who told Hillary that she could use her private email server for sending out, you know, classified information? And
well, of course,
were they drawn and quartered? You know. The new ones, no. And Tyler, I know the new ones they're investigating are not her emails. Nobody's claiming they are. The emails they're investigating right now came from Anthony Weiner's computer. Okay, but it is related to her server because they came from her server. So this is definitely related to it, right? If they found out that classified information came from her server, she is responsible. Nobody's claiming it's her emails.
If you'd seen this interview with some chappie on BBC News, I don't know, I think it was a Newsweek journalist or something, was saying that she had got addicted along with Clinton to being very private, and even when Bill Clinton was president, they were very allergic to the press intrusion into the White House, and he was claiming that she'd gone to this sort of private email server because of a sort of need for privacy. Now, whether that's obviously an indication of her, you think she's sort of the crooked line or something. But he was claiming there was a sort of semi-justified reason as to why she might have been inclined to do it. But I would agree with that. I'm still on your side on this one, that she being security conscious meant that she shouldn't be messing around with such things and must have known it was dodgy at best.
Yeah, why? Okay, here's another question I may ask the panel. Why did she? What did she feel the need? And I grant there have been other people, Colin Panel was one, that have, you know, tried this before to use private. But why do they feel the need to do that? What's the reason? It's a convenience, or... Anybody throw out a reason of why, especially to this extent? I mean, there's those top secret files on the server, and there's a missing USB.
Hold on, Steve. You sure about that?
Yes, there's secret and top secret on there. Yes.
You're sure?
Yes. Matter of fact,
early
you want the actual numbers on it? Because I can get you the actual numbers.
Because I thought they claimed that it was only low grade
No.
information.
Again,
There was hang on one sec. There were 65 emails that were deemed secret and 22 deemed top secret.
Right.
In my experience, most of the reason why stuff like that happens is out of convenience, because in
That's what
order
I'm
to
thinking as
set
well.
up, right, like what you were saying, in order to set up a server like that, it is a monumental pain to get it done, and sometimes people just jump through hoops, or to them, the convenience of being able to set up a quick, fast email server and then deal with the consequences if you get in trouble is more expedient than trying to go through the pain of setting it up in the first place.
And that's what I'm thinking happened here. They set up an email server. She's using that email server, knowing that it's a private, unsecured. That's the key word, unsecured server, and sending emails containing top secret information. She was aware of this.
I would like to point out that had I done the same thing, I would be fired at best and incarcerated at worst.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, you'd be fired. Yeah, you're done. Yeah, and that's one of the things I brought up before. Is there a double standard? Tony, do you want to add anything? You've been awfully quiet, and that scares me when you're quiet, Tony. Because then you're just like gonna burst, like like a balloon.
It's a volcano.
Yeah. Tony, do you got a mic today, Tony? Because we can't hear you.
Do you mean have you got a mic? That's the thing. I don't ever understand this Americans use of did and have. The question surely is have you got a mic? Not did you, because that's a past tense. Did you have a mic? That's something
you said. Do you have a mic?
I said, do you have a mic?
Sorry. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, yeah. Your English is splendid, but your listening skills not so much.
Splendid.
But no, I just saw someone else doing the Americans. Americans seem to have the problem using the auxiliary verb have. They say I did get or something.
Oh, this reminds me.
I remember that.
I've been totally having a Mandela effect.
Ooh, tell us.
Thing.
Quick sidetrack.
Tony. Yeah, because I mean, from the timeline that I think I'm from, we say things like could have or should have, but apparently this timeline it's could of.
No. I
read a lot of YouTube comments last night, and apparently it's timelines.
No, it's not timelines. It's quantum realities.
To where the phrase is could of.
No,
should
of. Okay. Completely illegal.
Pronounced
completely and utter bot. God, my
God.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Rumpus, for quelling my fear of switching timelines.
I'm in the same quantum reality. It's not timeline. It's quantum reality. So I'm in the same quantum reality view. It could have, would have, should have. Yes. And remember the am is are be being been have has had do does did. Remember that?
Just a short little sidetrack. I read a lot of YouTube comments last night, and I just keep seeing it, and I'm saying.
It's not.
Who are these people, and who is teaching them how to speak? Because they got to stop.
Rumpus,
Jesus Christ!
Can you give me the list of the auxiliary?
Could, have, would, should, can,
may.
Good one. And all the negative versions like couldn't, wouldn't.
Might.
Yes, another good one.
That's a good one.
That's
actually.
A very good one. May. So may and
JJ's
might,
smart
could, should,
today.
Would, had
he put on his thinking
had and have.
I remember having a song about it. It was like it went like am is are be
obviously am of the to be one is all the am I am running, I am going to, or I am eating, something like that. So auxiliary verb and the am bit. And have obviously.
Wait. I am is
yes,
was were
yes.
be. Wait. Shh. Am is are was were be been has have do does did may might must can could shall should will.
Shall.
Yeah, shall.
That's very English.
Yeah, shall.
Rumpus, do you accept the contraction ain't?
No, absolutely not. We never
Do
ever
you,
say that.
do you
here.
accept any contractions?
I accept the contraction ain't nowadays.
What-
It's not
what-
worth arguing about. If people want to use ain't, fine.
No, we have to have an apostrophe in there. So, but no, ain't.
Well, yes,
isn't
it's
even,
apostrophe,
but the ain't isn't
yes.
even. You know, there are lots of contractions, but a contraction just means you shove an apostrophe. So wouldn't, for instance, is a perfectly valid contraction, but ain't isn't even valid.
Ain't,
Sure it is.
okay, well, actually,
You don't-
yes, it is. American
Perhaps in American land, yes, but nowhere else in the world.
No, it's
I don't use
it's
I
a
don't
proper
use it.
contraction. It's just my question is, I mean, whether or not it's being used correctly. People
It's used correctly. Yeah, I think it's used
people
correctly.
use ain't incorrectly all the time.
How do they use it?
I be using it incorrectly. Correctly.
They use it in I don't know that the
So someone
well,
might
I
say,
mean,
to you, are you a
Ain't-
criminal? And someone might say,
No,
I am.
the point is that ain't
Which
is a
means I'm not.
contraction. It is a contraction for am not. It's not a contraction for
well,
if
hang
I
on.
say it ain't, it ain't done. That's not proper.
I've never heard that ain't.
If I say I ain't ready, that's proper.
Well, not in sensible where the English language was invented. It isn't.
Is that third person if I say it ain't?
Yeah, it's a contraction for am not, are not, is not.
Oh, that's not true. That's maybe
Yeah,
the way it's used anymore. But originally it's a contraction for am not.
Wasn't that the important thing? How it's used?
Yeah,
now?
it says right now, am not, are not, or is not. But the word, but the meaning, ain't wasn't acceptable for a long period of time. But over a period of time, it's kind of like seeped into the American vernacular. I don't like the word. I don't really use ain't because I think it makes it sound kind of like, hickish. But it is an
There's
official
another
word.
related contraction.
That ain't mine.
made.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't think
Mate.
anybody with an IQ over 120 should be using ain't.
You ain't the father. That baby
Mate.
ain't mine. That's how you use it.
Y'all ain't culture.
That's something ain't right about you, boy.
It's for people who don't understand how to use English properly. It's the sort of thing a G-man would use.
No, he says axe. Let
Wait,
me ask
yeah,
you a
it's-
question. That
Rumpus,
drives
what
me
is-
nuts.
Rumpus, what do you think of y'all?
I like y'all.
Offensive.
I like y'all.
What? It's
I like
useful.
y'all.
It's useful.
Oh, y'all,
I'm sorry.
y'all come back now. You hear? I think
I'm
that's
sorry,
sweet.
but I believe in using English as in the written form, and you verbally it should be very little different.
But
Yeah.
you all is just cumbersome. I don't know.
Well, no, we
And by
don't
the
say
way-
you all. We know. I would
Back on
never
topic.
use you
Okay,
all.
Forget the English
What-
lessons.
give
Get
me an
back on topic.
example of when I would want to use it.
Rumpus.
You all.
Let's get back on topic because I want Tony to fix his mic and I want to hear from him. And
Would
yes,
you
Jay,
just
we
use
know, we already addressed the fact that they are not reopening something. The reopening is kind of a misleading thing. We already addressed that. So they're not reopening investigation. This is a new one. This is a tangential investigation that's relating to the original claim of the of her handling misinformation or having illegal things with the server. It is related to Clinton, but they're not reopening an investigation directly with Clinton right now. Nobody's saying that. So let's clarify that. But anyways, Tony, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but we do. Whatever. We
Nah,
don't talk to you now.
okay. I can't even remember what I was going to say. So sorry about that.
Okay, it's a little early to start drinking, dude.
No, I got
Not-
a cold.
not here.
My head's a bit like cotton wool at the moment.
Well,
I should have my medication.
Let me refresh your memory of what you typed in the slide. And Jack, if you got to go, thank you, buddy.
All right, yeah, see y'all.
Yep.
See y'all.
You said something about she knew the emails were there, did nothing about it, makes her guilty as a person that put them there, even if she didn't do it. In the days of computer systems, there's no reason for a personal email server, something along those lines.
Okay, right, okay. Right, yeah, she openly admits that she knew the emails were there. If she knew it was illegal for those documents to be there, then she should have actually taken steps to actually correct that problem. She didn't, so therefore that makes her an accessory to the actual crime that's taken place. And it doesn't make any difference which way you want to shake the leaves. That's the way it is. In the case of her having a personal email server, yes, it's a bitch to set one up. And in this day and age of remote access to systems, even at the highest level that she is, they make them so simple that any fucking idiot can use them. So I'm sorry,
but set up
making a
use,
personal email
yes.
service does not hold any ground. apart from if you're being sneaky and you want to do something off the record when no one else can trace. Now, if that is the case, then there needs more investigation into this to actually find out what the fuck she was doing.
Yes, that's the one I would like to know. I've never heard her give a proper explanation as to why she required her own personal email server.
And that's what I asked earlier. I understand that people do have their own personal email servers, but they are told, and very specifically told, this was the whole problem with her BlackBerries that the Secret Service was even concerned about, that if you have personal stuff, it needs to be treated properly. And they all were saying that this was not set up right, that they never went through the proper procedures. Clinton arbitrarily took it upon herself to do it and have it set up, and just thought she was above the I guess the law in this particular case, and didn't think she had to conform to it. That's what I'm getting out of this.
Yeah, there's something else that hasn't come to light or hasn't been made public that is going on. There must be, because there's no other reason for her to have a personal email service. I mean, okay, yes, we've all got personal email services, and they're all very insecure. In her particular situation, if she has got half a brain cell, she would know that it has to be secure.
Well, do you guys think the FBI did a thorough job in the investigation on that? Or do you think they kind of like...
No.
Yes.
The thing that surprises me also is that she didn't set this up herself, of course. She told a number of other people to go and do it. So they presumably must have been aware that this was a dodgy thing to do. And I think
they did. They made her aware. No, they told her. They knew it was dodgy, and they made her aware that it was dodgy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's were like, yeah, we don't think that we could do this, guys.
Yeah, so that's a bit dodgy, isn't it? The fact she specifically had to go and ask someone, say, look, I want this private email server, and they said, well, I don't think you ought to do that, given our, our security issues, and just in principle for security issues, you shouldn't be doing that. And then she said, no, carry on, go ahead and do it. That's obviously, she needs to explain that, and I would go, that's definitely a mark against her. Because it's not as though she didn't know it was bad, because someone who she asked to do it specifically told her that's not something you should be doing.
So who said that they thought the initial investigation was actually done properly? Who said that?
Well,
I was disagreeing.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't think it was done properly, because if it was done properly, it should be behind bars now.
Well, that's what a lot of people are wondering. I mean,
that's going a bit far.
Well, no. Well, it would have been possible if she was not a political person, then the possibility of jail time would definitely have been there. I mean, they thought Justin Timberlake was threatened with 30 days in jail for sending a picture in a fucking phone booth. Okay, and this is classified top secret information that she mishandled. I mean, come on. I mean, come on. You don't see a disproportionate thing here? Come on.
General Petraeus lost his position of director of CIA for a similar.
Yes, he did.
That's up.
And I don't think we've heard last about that one either, by the way.
Did you just say Justin Timberlake?
Yeah, Justin Timberlake was...
come on. Oh, do you really need a reason to put that man behind bars?
Oh, come on. He's a talented guy, man. I got to give him props for that.
He brought sexy back, okay? Leave him alone.
Well, I've got to go...
Leave JT alone.
Yeah, I mean, he's married to Jessica Biel, for God's sake. You got to give the guy props, right? She's hot.
No,
and who was his ex-girlfriend? He dated...
Well, come.
Jessica Biel?
He dated Britney Spears, obviously. But there was somebody between Britney and Jessica.
Cameron Diaz?
I suppose that's
was it Cameron
big
Diaz?
enough debt to...
Wasn't he? I don't know. Who hasn't he been with? Man's a talent.
Yeah, I mean, so gotta give the guy props, right? I mean,
man's a god among men.
He is.
Right. Okay.
Well, Tony's a god among men too, but
I don't know about that. No. According to G-Man, I am, but according to me, no.
Who's calling me now? Oh crap! My mom's calling me. I'm gonna have to call her back. Sorry, Mom. I will call you back. I promise.
While we're on the subject of Hillary and not getting arrested, was anybody else baffled by the FBI director's statement that he did not establish intent? Yet, if anybody knows anything about how the DoD and DOS works, you have to go at least semi-annual, if not quarterly, refresher training on this stuff. and there are documents you have to sign affirming that you understood and attended that training?
Oh, I didn't get into specifics on that, but absolutely. You have to take courses on how to handle classified information. You're made aware that this is classified information. And then you have to go through, like you said, refresher courses. Now, I didn't have to go through refresher courses when I was in. I'm not going to lie and say that I did.
Do you think Secretary Clinton had to go to that?
Yes.
But she's the secretary.
Yeah, there's a couple of documents that were produced.
She doesn't have to go to that.
She's the one I would think would have to go to that. That's what it's for. It's for the people in those kinds of positions. I would think that's what they're for.
I don't think she just said, "Well, I know all that stuff already."
No, I think she actually went.
If you can't get Fulbright kernels out of it, then you can't get the Secretary of State out of it.
Yeah, but you have to have those courses to become Secretary of State, I'm sure.
Well, that, and I mean, at least it was either her non-disclosure agreement or it was one of those training documents that she signed. It has her signature on it. Was made public.
That's interesting.
I mean,
yeah, it's really hard for me, actually impossible for her to feign, that she didn't know or whatever. I mean, that's just I don't think anybody at this point would accept that. I don't think it's just what she's doing. I don't think she's using that as an excuse, is she?
Well, I think she said, "I do not recall" or "I do not know." I think a total of like 210 times during her interview.
That may be true. Yeah, I guess during the live interview.
It was some outrageous number when she was being interviewed by the FBI.
I've made it very clear that I don't trust Hillary Clinton at all. I mean, I think she's a very duplicitous, evil woman. I mean, she's been a bitch to everybody that's come in contact with her. Her own staff hates her. I mean, the Secret Service can't stand her. But that doesn't affect, the fact that, what she can do as a president. But even if she has these skills to become president, which I think she's qualified for in that regard, what kind of controversies are we going to start off this new presidential term with? I mean, we're already going in with scandal, and I'm tired of it. Does anybody not see the problem with this?
I see your country as being totally fucked no matter who gets in.
Well, we've already determined that, yes. But at least with Clinton, at least with Trump, he doesn't have political scandal that much yet. I mean, yes, he always has some.
Doesn't matter. His scandals are bad enough.
But he has all the political handling of a sledgehammer. He doesn't realize that the stupid things he comes out with can be taken by people in quite serious ways.
I agree. Right.
And that is going to land your country in a lot of trouble.
He lacks tact, right?
He lacks tact. Yes.
Yeah.
That may be true, but as far as formulations and whatnot goes, I mean, we can all say that George W. Bush wasn't the most well-spoken or best communicator as far as presidents go, but under his tenure, relations between the U.S. and Russia were as strong as they've ever been.
Under who? Bush?
George W. Bush.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I think we're pretty strong. But again, I don't want to go back to any of these types of oligarchies or monarchies or whatever the hell it'd be when you have a whole family running generations of political clout.
Dynasty.
I mean, yeah, it is like a dynasty. It's just like a dynasty. I mean, come on. How do you have two Bushes in there and a third that would have a possibility? Something's wrong. Something's fundamentally wrong with our system.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
It's scary, and I hate to admit that because obviously I'm very pro-American. I love this country. I fought for this country, and I support this country wholeheartedly. But I don't know what the hell happened to it. I don't know what the hell happened to our political system. It's just abominable. And as somebody pointed out, Tyler pointed out, the Republicans. I'm not a Republican anymore. I moved to libertarianism, if anything. But the candidates the Republicans had this political season, what the fuck were they thinking? There was the worst set of possible political candidates I have ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, were there any clean
ones?
What
were they thinking when they nominate Mitt Romney and John McCain for president?
I'm not a huge fan, but I mean Romney I hate, but I mean McCain I didn't think was that bad. I think McCain would have been okay. Romney obviously had issues.
McCain is an asshole.
He isn't. Yeah, I mean, but that doesn't make him a bad president.
Well, he's boring beyond belief.
He's kind of a warmonger.
But again,
That would have been terrible.
How many of these political people were worth a shit to begin with? I mean, again, that's what I'm saying. Everybody who's gone up for nomination has been crap. You know, I couldn't have voted for any of the Republican candidates.
Hey, don't look at me, man.
What happened to Chris Christie? Did you guys? There was something about Chris Christie in the news I just read recently that he's now fucked.
Yes, he's fucked
because of his knowing of the causing of the traffic jams. What is on the Ford Bridge, Eisenhower Bridge, where the hell fucking bridge it was, and because of that, they think it's retaliatory that he did it. Made it retaliatory for people that didn't support him or stuff like that. I mean, he's fucked. And so, yeah, I don't trust any of these guys, man.
Who was he retaliating against?
Do you guys remember?
Oh, it's the town, the local government.
But there was some people specifically named, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't know their names, but it was the local government.
Yes.
Where the traffic jam was caused.
And I think he probably was retaliating.
Steve, do you trust Bernie Sanders?
I like Sanders.
Do you trust him?
As far as any politician, I would have been okay. I would vote for Sanders right now.
You said you don't trust any of these fuckers, these politicians. Right. That's why I said you trust.
But I mean, there's
trust Bernie Sanders.
There's degrees of trust, right? I don't trust any of them, but I would probably trust Bernie more than the other ones. Does that make sense? It's not
any politician you trust more than Bernie Sanders. That you know of.
I like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Does that count? But he's not even.
You trust Arnold Schwarzenegger?
I trust Arnold
more than Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, I like Arnold.
You keep saying I like. Do you trust?
I said yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah. I asked. Okay. I said yes.
I want to confirm. It sounded like you were dodging when you said I like him.
I said yes.
So I just want to confirm that you are saying that you trust Arnold Schwarzenegger as a politician more than Bernie Sanders. That's interesting to me.
Yeah, I do. Because I don't know much about Bernie. Oh, I love Ron Paul. Yes. You know what? That's a good point. I like Ron Paul. I think Ron Paul was a hell of a good wild card, and I like the fact that he answered questions directly. He doesn't fuck around. He basically he had a great shot. If he was actually nominated by one of the bigger political parties, I think he could have won. Do you guys agree?
Yeah, I supported Ron Paul.
Yeah, I supported Ron Paul.
He was the best Republican.
But he still didn't have a shot, though.
That was up for the nomination.
Yeah.
Looked like he almost had a shot for a while.
Yeah. But I'm also the guy that named my daughter after Reagan, so come on. I love Ronald Reagan, and a lot of people don't like Reagan.
Sad. What? What do you like about Ronald Reagan?
Well, we're not going to get into Ronald.
Okay, fine. Maybe another time.
Because I don't want to set Jade off. But yes, I did. My daughter's middle name is Reagan.
Well, that's a fine name.
Thank you.
I just wouldn't say that.
Well, again,
named after Ronald Reagan.
When it comes to politics,
it's like saying that Hillary Clinton was named after Sir Edmund Hillary. Jeez, come on.
No, it's not. I actually named my daughter after Reagan. I mean,
Reagan was a terrible president.
By the time my daughter
Reagan is a lovely name, but Ronald Reagan was a terrible president.
I think he was the best president we ever had.
Oh, yeah, another time, Highlander.
Yeah, I love Ronald Reagan. But anyways, people always want to have their political left and right shit. We get this, right? I think the real question is besides our political differences and the fact that some people are left, some people are right, what's going to happen with this particular story? I'm really curious. I know we are speculating here, and I think news is coming out literally by the hour on this. I'm going to go on a limb and probably say that probably not much is going to become of it. I don't think it's going to change the election or anything like that. But I do think that if Hillary does win, this is something that's going to follow her in the very first days of her election. This is something that has persistence and staying power, and it's not going to be let go very easily. And no, I actually don't hate the economy, and I actually like Reaganomics, Tyler. Yeah, but anyways.
What?
Yeah,
you gotta stop saying shit like that.
Why? I'm very proud of the fact that I like
triggering me.
What
do you like?
I'm not going to get into
Reaganomics.
I'm not going to get in this hangout because I'm not prepared to have a discussion on Reagan. I took macroeconomics years ago, and I don't remember much about the supply demand curve and all the other shit. But the Reaganomics, I think if they didn't get rid of the tax cuts, when Bush didn't re-sign I think it was 1990. Was it the 19? Oh my God, I can't remember the year. The tax cuts that actually ended Reaganomics, but they weren't renewed. I think that had a major effect. I'm getting a lot of static again. Is that you?
Probably me. Yeah, it's me.
Are you in a diner or something?
No,
Am I the only person who likes Reagan? Seriously, like nobody else? I thought he was well spoken. I thought he made a good statesman. I thought he had one of the highest public approval ratings of all time.
He was also senile.
He wasn't senile when he was in office. There's no evidence.
He
of
was.
That. There is no evidence of that.
He had pretty eyes and a nice smile.
I remember
shit,
being
dude.
at a dinner, royal dinner with the Queen and the then newly married Princess Di and horse features. And he referred to Princess Di as Princess David.
Well, maybe he just made a mistake, but I mean, there's really no evidence that he was senile. And it wasn't senility, by the way, it was Alzheimer's.
Oh, Alzheimer's, whatever.
But I mean, the only really thing that I couldn't stand about the Reagan era was when Nancy Reagan was all into astrology and astrologers. I thought that was pretty shitty. I understand that was a big thing back in the 70s, and maybe she just kind of fell for it. But I mean,
that's the only thing.
That's one of the biggest things. Yeah.
Well, there was the whole Iran-Contra thing. I mean,
that's like the most trivial thing.
No, it wasn't to me because I really
Nancy Reagan's interest in astrology.
I really can't stand astrology. It's again, it was no difference like Mike Pence, right? Mike Pence is a young earther. I can't stand the fact that he might be.
Speaks to her irrationality.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But I mean, again, when these people are in office, right, or in the White House, Nancy wasn't in office, but it shows that they have some kind of a rationality if they accept things like young Earth creationism or flat Earth, or in this case, astrology. I think it does relate, right? And I don't want a young Earth creationist being the president of the Senate. That just scares the shit out of me.
Well, do you think that was the only thing that Nancy Reagan was irrational about?
Yeah, right off the top of my head.
Do you think, and Ronald Reagan, did he just...
We're getting away from the thing. I don't want to get into Reagan right now. Every time I do, it gets to triggering shit. So let's stick with the topic.
Terrible president.
Well, who's your favorite president?
Favorite president? I don't know. FDR was pretty good. In fact, I wasn't even around with
FDR.
And all the dudes on Mount Rushmore. Those are all. Dude, those guys are pretty good.
No. In your lifetime, dude.
In my lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, FDR died in 45.
In my lifetime was.
You're not that old.
Was Nixon, Carter. Well, I guess Ford in between.
You think Carter was a good president? Carter?
He was a pretty good president.
I thought he was the worst.
I didn't say he was great, but he was. Now that you say that, I'll say that he was pretty good. He was okay.
He made a great diplomat.
In our lifetime, I'm not a big fan of any of the presidents that we've had.
Well, so then you can't win, right? You got to pick a favorite then. But I mean, he was a good diplomat. Carter was an ex-nuke like myself, I heard. I don't know if that's true or not. I tried to do some research on that, but I think he actually was an ex-nuke.
Well, yeah, he was.
But he was attacked by a giant rabbit.
What?
Did he say
you ever heard of the Carter rabbit incident?
No.
I know he claimed to have seen a UFO.
Yeah. He was out fishing one day, and he reported being attacked
like Harvey
by
or something?
A giant rabbit.
Was it like Harvey? You guys remember the movie Harvey?
It was a puka.
You guys don't remember the movie Harvey, really?
Yeah, Harvey's a puka, right?
Puka. I never heard that term.
Puka?
Yeah. Like a spirit or something? I don't know.
Yes.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Oh, so like okay. Because I thought
Puka, I believe. If you want to look it up.
I thought the rabbit was like something that he conjured up, like in his mind. It was actually supposed to be an actual spirit now.
Well, it's debatable.
Oh.
It's a fucking movie.
Yeah, draw your own conclusion. Well, you know what? The only cool rabbit I thought was in Donnie Darko. That was the shit. Awesome movie.
Please.
Director's cut. You don't like Donnie Darko director's cut? Get the fuck out of my hangout. Are you kidding me? That movie was brilliant.
Well, I never said anything of the sort.
Okay.
I just said, oh, please, let's not talk about Donnie Darko.
You like it? You didn't like it?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Have you seen any of the sequels?
Yeah, they weren't as good.
No. But anyway, Carter talked about seeing a giant rabbit. I don't recall that story.
Yeah, I'll have to look.
Reagan was terrible. I didn't know how terrible Reagan was. I of course remember Iran-Contra, and I supported G.H.W. Bush because he, what makes a good president in this case, he was good. He was good in a lot of ways, but of course his soul was black as pitch.
Well, a lot of people thought G.W. Bush was the Antichrist, right?
G.H.W.?
No, G.W. Sorry.
Oh, I'm talking about G.H.W.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, well, his father wasn't too really well received either, but.
Well, he was not taken very seriously, but that's fine. I mean,
he was kind of a low key, wasn't he?
He was. Well, I don't know what you mean by that exactly.
He was nowhere near. He was a
decent president.
I'm not denying that.
But as far as foreign policy, I mean, which was an important thing for him. He thought that his administration thought foreign policy, and subsequent presidents too, obviously. The whole idea of getting involved in the Middle East and everything was strategic. I don't agree with it, but the administration thought it was good for the country, for the greater good. I understand that, but I don't agree.
I'm reading the
subsequent presidents. Clinton. I think Clinton was allowed to win because G.H.W. Bush could not win a second term because of Iran-Contra. And what do we get after that?
I'm reading about this rabbit. I still don't fully understand it, but it's weird. I don't recall this. But
you could say that Clinton was the best president in my lifetime.
I think he was horrible on the military.
In a lot of ways, he was a great president, and in other ways, he was a piece of shit. So he's certainly better than Reagan.
No, Reagan was awesome. But anyways,
what was so awesome about Reagan?
I like Reagan. What do you want me to tell you? I like Reagan a lot. I think he was a very, very good president. I think he was a great statesman. He was well loved. The patriotism is extremely high under him. I think he had effective communications with people. I think he did wonderful against to Russia. Yeah, I think he was just a good man. I think he was a trustworthy man. I think he was an honorable man. I think in anybody in politics, that's the biggest thing I could say about Reagan is that I think he was a very, very honorable, respectful man. I don't think he was
except he lied about arming the Contras.
Well, the Iran-Contra was actually I think it was more general. God damn, what was the name that lied?
You think it was all Ollie North's idea?
Ollie North. Yeah.
You think it was all Ollie North's idea?
Not so much his idea, but
did Reagan apologize?
I haven't looked into Iran-Contra in ages. What is there?
Didn't Reagan apologize for that whole deal?
Yeah, I mean, he did.
Well, that's nice.
But who lied is a different story. I mean, Ollie North, I think, lied under oath, if I remember correctly.
They all lied. Reagan lied, unless you want to argue that he didn't know he was lying.
Well, I think that he didn't really know the full.
Or did he apologize for lying?
No, I don't think he never apologized for lying. He apologized for the situation. But again, I haven't done my research on it, so I'm not going to really comment. So I really don't remember. It's been that long ago.
Well, it was a treasonous act, and nobody got.
I don't fully accept that either. I think there was actually reasons for things.
Well, of course, there were reasons. It was still treason.
I don't think. No, I don't want to call it treason. If it was treason, people would have definitely been indicted. Treason is a very specific charge, and I don't find anything treasonous about it. You know, they armed for
Maybe.
a reason. You know.
Elements of it were treasonous.
Yeah, but again, without doing my research on it, I really don't remember the situation too
Well, if there was an arms embargo against Iran, and then we got them some arms, I'm pretty sure that's treason.
Well, one of these days I'll look back into it and I'll get back to you on it. Because again, I don't like commenting on things I don't remember, right? Because that's what Ronnie does.
You don't have to comment. I'm trying to educate you.
Well, yeah, but you're opining at the same time.
that's kind of the definition of treason, right?
No. There again, I've read into Iran-Contra, and I don't remember ever seeing the word treason come up.
Aiding and abetting an enemy.
I don't remember ever seeing the word
treasonous, right?
Aiding and abetting, but again, with the specific situation here, I don't
providing material support for an enemy is treason, right?
Depending on the circumstances. In this particular circumstances, there's nothing treasonous about it. I don't remember seeing treason anywhere attached to this situation. Show me where they accuse Reagan of being a traitor or or anybody.
Lots of people did.
Show me formally. I don't or anywhere.
Well, it didn't happen formally.
Well, even informally, not just the general public.
The man was allowed to slide by. All of those people involved were allowed to slide by with treasonous acts without being charged with treason.
Yeah, I don't.
And then the two people, or the few people that went to jail, were pardoned by the incoming president, G.H.W. Bush, or by the outgoing president.
They did get. I mean, some people did get pardoned on that, correct?
Casper Weinberger and I think Ollie. What was Ollie North's? I don't think he was pardoned exactly. Maybe he was also. I forget if John Secord. Anyway, certainly Casper Weinberger was pardoned.
Yeah. Again,
the Secretary of Defense.
I don't think it was treason by any means, because Iran was never. We were never at war against Iran. They were never our enemy. And treason is defined to be, and I just looked it up. Treason against the United States shall consist only of levying war against them or adhering to their enemies and giving them aid and comfort. We were never at war. So you cannot use the charge treason.
I'm not even sure if the U.S. recognized the Iranian government at that point in time.
That's a good question, because
you mean a formal declaration of war by Congress?
Well, there definitely was no formal declaration of war.
Right.
Yeah. And treason specifically under the Constitution. I'm reading it right now. Quote: treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them or in adhering to their enemies and giving them aid and comfort. So that's what I'm saying. You got to be careful throwing these charges around, because they don't really apply. That's why I've never read anything about treason in the actual Iran-Contra. It's just legally doesn't apply.
I guess it depends on how it's interpreted.
Well, again, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you got to do your research on this stuff, and I'm not prepared to actually talk much about it because I haven't done my research on it. I researched the email things a little bit because I wanted to have a hangout on it, but I'm not prepared to really get into Iran-Contra. It's been too many years ago. I remember Casper Weinberger, and I remember Ollie North and all that shit. But come on, these scandals have been so ubiquitous that nobody remembers the details about anything of this shit, right?
I could use a refresher.
What's that, Slim?
I said only from some case studies I had to do for college, and that was like 10 years ago. So
yeah, and you kind of just forget the details, the fine details, right?
Yeah, just the overall narrative.
Are you? What's going on with your mic, Slim?
Are you getting background?
No,
staticky.
It sounds staticky. Yeah, like really staticky.
The internet in town just kind of. I'm on my phone right now, and the internet goes in and out, and it's a little.
It's probably interference then.
Yeah, it sounds like RF interference. It's either RF interference, and also kind of sounds like one of those old 2400 baud modems. Like I can actually hear the data going through.
Yeah, it might be.
But yeah, you definitely might have RF interference.
What case studies did you have to do?
Go stand in a Faraday cage.
I majored in intelligence studies in college, and I had to. I did a couple reports on Iran, like the whole coup against Mossadegh and the rise of the Shah and all, or the fall of the Shah and all that.
So some of that stuff is right up your alley then.
Okay, interesting.
One time I wanted
Where-
to work for Alphabet Soup, and then I actually worked for the government and found out how much a pain in the ass it is, so I quit.
Now,
Oh,
what,
yeah.
Now what
Where did you study this?
was
I
it the
studied it
Shah,
through American Military University.
was it the Shah
Okay.
operative of the CIA at one time?
No, I don't know if the Shah was, but I know he was supplied and funded by the CIA when they wanted to
I
get
should say that
his
at
prime
least.
minister out.
Yeah, and then the CIA tried to overthrow him back in like in the early 50s.
Yep.
Were they was it? No, they tried to throw it. Oh my God, was it they tried to overthrow him?
Yeah, they were
Or
trying
was
to
it,
dislodge his
Mohammed?
prime minister because
Yeah,
the
Mohammed,
prime minister was
yeah.
trying to nationalize what is now known as BP.
Yeah. Okay. So I remember. Oh my God, I can't take that anymore. Stop. Mute. Please mute. Slim mute. Oh my God. Yeah. You have to like F5 or something. That's just screeching in my ears.
It's not that bad.
Dude, I got earplugs
Slim-
in. Yes, it's bad.
Oh, so do I. Slim, did you ever? You didn't do foreign service, did you?
No, just I was in the army for a while. That's all.
Okay.
Can you F5 or something and try to see if it fixes it?
Let me exit the hangout and then jump back in.
Okay. All right, like I said, anybody else wants to come in? I'm putting the link out in the live feed if they want to throw their 2 cents in. I'm not having a long hangout today, so I just thought this was an interesting topic, and I want to see what people's like positions are and what they think is going to happen with all this. Again, I'm not holding out that this is going to have a dynamic effect on the election, but it just goes to show that we're 11 days away from the election, and there's still scandal going on. It's like, come
I
on.
think that it's irresponsible of Clinton to continue her campaign after all of this potential scandal has come out, right? Given that she will probably get so much resistance in Congress, I think that it's irresponsible for her to even run and to accept the nomination.
I think if it was anybody else other than Hillary, they probably would have acquiesced their nomination and from the candidacy.
Well, it seems like they would have. It seems like they would have. I mean, I think back to the, was it the 92? It was the 92 campaign, right? Where not Tom Harkin. Who the hell was the front runner? I forget. What the hell is his name?
I may or may not recall it.
Anyway, he was caught in some kind of sex scandal and eventually dropped out, which made Bill Clinton the front runner and led to his election. What the hell is that guy's name?
What does it start with?
I want to say it's Tom. Not Tom Daschle, not Tom Harkin. Democratic nominee, nomination hopeful in the 92 election.
Let me think here. Thomas Sowell?
No, might not even be Tom. I can't think of his fucking name.
What year was you think it was? 93?
Well, it would have been 91 or 92.
And he was a front runner?
It was in 92. Yeah, he was the front runner up until.
You talking about Newt Gingrich?
No, Democrat.
Oh, because yeah, he's a Republican. He had a slant, with his whole wife being sick and all that.
Well, he's a douchebag. Newt Gingrich is a douche.
Mel Reynolds?
Who ran in 92 for Democrats for the nomination?
Right here.
Yeah, I'm looking at the list too, and I don't.
Larry Agron, Eugene McCarthy, Douglas Wilder, Tom Harkin, Bob Kerrey, and Paul Tsongas. Oh, and Jerry Brown, Governor of California.
What am I thinking
I've got a
of
bigger
then?
list. I got Donald Luskins, Aston Murphy, Charles Robb, Brock Adams, Robert Packwood, Ken Calvert, Helen Chenoweth, Bob Barr, Dan Burton, Robert Livingston, Newt Gingrich, Henry Hyde, Pete Domenici, Bill Clinton, Mel Reynolds. My God, politics is wrapped with fucking sex scandals, aren't they, and shit?
Yeah, but size doesn't matter. It's how you use it, right?
I swear to God, these people get in. It used to be like back in the day, everybody knew there were sex scandals, but nobody cared. I mean, look at the Kennedy thing, you know, that with Marilyn Monroe and all that. People didn't care. But nowadays, it's like, fuck. Strom Thurmond, no, that was 2000. Gary Conduit.
Oh, no, we are definitely living in a new wave of American Puritanism, without a doubt.
Yeah, you know, I don't really care about the sex scandals as long as they're consenting adults. I don't give a fuck. I just don't. I think that's like the stupidest thing to talk about in politics. Fuck you ever want in politics. I don't care. Just get the job done. That's the problem. They just don't get the job done. You know.
You know, it's kind of funny because I was talking about Petraeus earlier, and everybody thought he was like the second coming of Christ until that whole scandal thing broke. And now nobody wants anything to do with him.
Oh, John Petraeus?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a golden child, right?
Oh, the man was a genius.
I mean, he was a military, you know, guru. I mean, he pretty much wrote the book on military, some military things. I think he did write books, didn't he?
Yeah, I think it was either him or somebody on his staff that developed the current Army manual for counterinsurgency warfare.
Yeah, I mean, guy has more fucking medals and ribbons than Jesus, man.
I've just been watching Frank Lutz on BBC Newsnight. Do you know who Frank Lutz is? Lutz?
Yeah, he's a pollster, isn't he?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's a Republican supporter, Trump supporter, and he was just on BBC Newsnight just now, along with a representative of the Democrat thing. They were interviewed. He's over in London at the moment, and they also had some Democrat chappie from, I didn't recognise, a bearded chap.
What is he saying?
And anyway, the point was Frank Luntz was going on about the release of the emails, and he was saying that he thought, in his opinion, because the head of the FBI actually had Clinton's approval, that they seem to think, the Clinton seemed to think that he was the head of the FBI, who apparently is very keen on not politicizing the FBI, not at least not partisan anyway. And he thought, I mean, this is obviously the Republican guy's supporter, but even though he's not a fan of Trump, but he thought they had to have some significant dirt on Hillary for them to come out at this point.
I thought that's what I said, right?
Yeah, you did what you said, yeah.
You know, and I'm not suggesting it's a game changer, but I don't see rationally why they would come out this close to the election unless there was something major going on.
Yeah, I mean, my point was that if they started an investigation, they'd have to announce it. But you'd have thought that really, given the political situation, that
they'd be more coy
they
about
could have been
it,
accused of, you know, that they should have something solid if as you said, if they're going to announce this. So he was that of opinion. But then again, the Democrat guy said, well, all they've done is what I said, which is they just simply announced they've got an investigation. They've not given any details or any hint of actually what this information is, just that they're doing some more investigating.
And isn't that the weirdest part, though? I mean, what does that kind of imply to you if they're not even giving information?
Yeah, because if they have got something solid, then they should really have, because otherwise they can be accused of, well, if they have something solid now, then they should say so. And if they haven't got something solid, they shouldn't have made the announcement.
Well, again, it could go either way, right? They can actually.
Well, I did say they could be covering their ass because they've got to, you know, if they don't know what they've got, then they are investigating them. Then in some ways you say, well, they are obliged at least to. But then again, you thought they could at least have some sort of confidence. This is not just some sort of trivial reopening or some trivial incident, that they should at least.
It's not technically a reopening, as Jade points out.
Yeah,
it's not reopening anything.
It's about these other people's emails, which it
doesn't. They never really closed the investigation on her. It's just been kind of like, you know, been ongoing, but they said they haven't found anything yet. But I don't think they officially.
Yeah, well, actually, you know what I said about them being closed? They did actually emphasize. The Democrat guy made the point that the FBI. And he cited something from the letter or something saying that the investigation, the FBI went into Clinton, had been closed, and this was obviously to do that ended, at least it ended their investigation. They were, in other words, they'd ceased to be actively investigating, as far as I understood it. So this was in this investigation into Wiener's emails or whatever they are. But you would have thought they would have to have something more than just than this. We've got some information, we're going to investigate it, therefore it's got the word Clinton, you know, Wiener's got some sort of email from Clinton and this, therefore we're going to announce this. You'd have thought they'd have to have a bit more than that, but then it's a bit naughty to announce this and then leave it open to the speculation we're doing at the moment, unless there is something solid. And if so, they really ought to have said, well, there is something solid in there. We can't give you the details of what's in here, but we really ought to tell you that at least there's something here that is very suspicious, or at least will be worthy perhaps of reopening the other investigation, perhaps something like that. But to leave it in a situation where they just said they've opened it and then
it's very vague.
Solid is odd.
Yeah, it's that, and that's what I'm thinking. What is going on with this, right? I mean, okay, you guys remember that pretty much every time there's a right before the election, that something happens, right? A couple weeks before the election, there's always been some kind of scandal. But I've never seen anything really like this. I've never seen anything that brought up again like this, that's attaching to an existing scandal that could possibly be very detrimental. But at the same time, it could be absolutely nothing. And that's why would they say something like this? I don't know.
Yeah, they both agreed though that it was all over for Trump, so that's fine by me.
Yeah, well, I'm saying the same thing. I really think unless something significantly changes between now and the election, yes, I think Clinton will win. But yeah, but there could be a game changer thing. I mean, I'm not going to say Clinton's going to get arrested. I'm not going to go like that. But if she did, that would be a huge game changer, right? Or if she lost her security clearance that she couldn't run. Now, again, none of these things are very, very improbable of happening. I think it'd be funny if they did. But
you have to have you have to have security clearance to be able to become a presidential candidate.
Yes. You have top secret access to information. You know, you have military, you have nuclear weapons at your fingertips and shit like that. Of course, you have to have top secret.
Yes, I mean, I just wondered whether that okay. So you have to be. So all the candidates have to go through a sort of vetting process, then, do they? Right at some stage in the.
Yeah, you have to go through a federal background check, CIA, FBI, the 9 yards. Even I had to go through a background check.
Yeah, but as you said, the rules of politicians are slightly different for people in responsible positions like yours.
Sure. But unfortunately, that shouldn't be the case, should it?
No, it shouldn't be, because but then again, the way the American political system is such that the American president, although he can declare war on things, barely seems to be able to enact any actual power or any legislation himself. So you've got such a weak executive in the US. It's a wonder that
we do. Yeah, no, the power is in the Senate, right? The power is in the legislation branch more than anything. I mean,
yeah, which what makes and the trouble with the American system is that all these people can stop things happening, but no one can actually get anything done.
And you know, it's designed that way, though. But unfortunately, it's gotten so bogged down that even though it was designed that way, it just doesn't work the way it was originally intended.
No,
you know,
and that's because you've got the problem is you've got the people in the legislature do not see any advantage in cooperating with the executive. They've got their own personal fiefdom, and they get sort of status and coverage and money and things just by upping themselves. They don't have to, whether the government works or not doesn't really impinge upon them. Whereas in this country, the MPs are now members of parliament. They've all got a big incentive to make government work, because if they don't, the government comes down like a ton of bricks. And also they're made to seem, you know, that they're embarrassed and then accused of being disruptive. But so it's because it's in their interest. The way they succeed in Parliament is by getting up, you know, climbing the ladder of government and being seen to be cooperative and useful. That's not the case in the US system. There's no incentive for these congressmen necessarily to except for their own personal preferences, to cooperate with government to help legislate.
Because they don't get voted out.
They get more TV coverage from stopping something, like Ted Cruz seemed to do. Then they can regard that as a success enough. It doesn't make them impinge on their life at all.
I agree with that. I agree with that. They definitely want to stop bills more than put bills through. But I believe we need term limits, and I need to be more. You know, I like recall elections. I know they're costly, but my God, if these people do not do the job that we sent them there to do, recall their fucking asses.
No, but it's a system, Steve. Your system is the problem. It encourages this bad behavior. They're just simply playing the system. They're just doing.
I wouldn't go that far. I like the system. I just think that I think the system worked for a long time.
No one else has copied the American system because it is so. The inertia in the system is so great, and the way of stopping these. The only reason the Americans got away with having such an appalling political system is because economically they benefit from having a sort of British judicial system, democracy, and a great wad of resources.
I think it's fixable. I think it is fixable. I think we get the right people in there that can actually get some stuff done.
But your executive and your legislature are completely detached. I mean, even in other countries which have a president, they appoint the prime minister, so the prime minister is answerable, who works in parliament or in your.
Okay, well, because you have a queen that has no effect, no power whatsoever. I don't know how you know. Come on,
but this is where you're confused. Yeah, but Stevie, the mere fact you've raised that point, it means you don't understand what's going on.
I know how it works. I know.
We have a prime minister who has effectively very considerable powers. He's not only in charge of the executive, he's also also effectively in charge of the legislature. So when David Cameron or Theresa May, as we've got now, wanted to get something done, it got done, providing you had a majority in the House of Commons. Now you had Obama trying to get through gun legislation and Obamacare, and he couldn't do it. That simply would not occur in the UK Parliament. But
your prime minister has far more power than our president does.
Sorry?
That's not the point of the U.S. government, though.
I agree with that too. But I mean, he is right. The prime minister has far more power than our president does to accomplish things.
Yes,
right.
But the thing is, but the other advantage in our system is that the prime minister is actually also much more accountable to Parliament. In theory, if he starts behaving immorally or does something that's against the national interest, or is immoral or corrupt or something, the Parliament can immediately leap on him and get rid of him. Whereas in the US system, that can't happen. Your president, I mean, although you've got the Senate, can get rid of him in the cases of extreme incompetence or something. But fundamentally, there's no day-to-day accounting of your president to anybody. In the UK, we've got day-to-day, and every week the prime minister has to go in front of the House of Commons and get questioned by anybody. I
like that system though. I like the fact that when Theresa May, who was it before Theresa May? What the hell?
David Cameron.
Yeah, David Cameron. He would get grilled. Yeah, by the. I mean, I'm talking. It's brutal. I watched some of that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It is like basically, if people don't know the British system, because I have looked into this, they basically can ask them anything, and they are vicious. It's not like, oh, let's be nice shit. It is every man for himself. Now there are some limits. I don't think they can like viciously insult them.
That's right. You can't do personal abuse. You can't call someone a liar.
Right, you can't call them a liar, but you can't attack the credibility.
Because you were talking about lying earlier. In the UK Parliament, if you tell a lie and you've been found to tell a lie, you'll be kicked out. A prime minister, although you can say things like you will do something and then you don't do it, that's a bit different. But if you actually tell a lie, telling a lie in the House of Commons is effectively an act which will end your political career, whereas someone like Donald Trump does that as a matter of course. But my point, I was going back to about the difference in the system, you've got a weak president, but you can't get rid of him. Whereas in this country, we've got a very strong prime minister, but he's effectively contingent on the support of the Parliament, which can be withdrawn at any moment if he behaves in a corrupt fashion. Most of the time that doesn't happen, obviously, because it's in their interest to, the government, the way that people advance themselves as MPs and to become government ministers by supporting the Prime Minister. But immediately he seemed to be immoral or corrupt. They're out the door straight away, whereas that doesn't happen in the case of because you've got a separate democratic mandate for the president. He's going to stay there for the term, even if he behaves badly. There isn't a day-to-day. He doesn't answer to anybody in effect.
Well, that's not true. No, he can get impeached, right?
Yeah, but that's only in stream. Yes, okay, but
I mean, Clinton was impeached.
Yeah, I know he was impeached, but I'm just saying from the day-to-day, our prime minister has to talk to people who've basically made them the leader of the party, and he can't just abuse them or do something. Whereas the president, providing he doesn't go out and do something hugely corrupt or something, is going to be able to basically get away with doing whatever.
Yeah, it's very difficult to remove a sitting president. Very difficult.
It is difficult. Whereas in this country, it only have to do something very slightly immoral, and they'd be out. But providing they behave themselves morally and are not corrupt and are not seen to be sort of subservient to some other external interest or something, they're very, very powerful. But it's conditional on the support of of their party. So I much prefer that system. It means they get things done. I mean, some people said that we tend to, in this country, we tend to have too strong government, but in the American case it's too weak, and I don't think anybody's copied the American system because they realize it's so weak. Every other countries around the world, like Russia, which has a president, and France has a president, they appoint prime ministers to do their business in the legislature. But you don't have that system in the US, which means nothing ever gets done. You got the executive can't get your healthcare,
but I
can't stop guns.
But I like our system, and I like the fact that it is very difficult to get things done.
If you had,
hang on, let me finish. I do think we should change things up a bit, though. I mean, I'm very happy if we were to add your type of system where, again, they go in front of Congress or the Senate, or probably the House of Representatives, but they get grilled and I like that type of adversarial type nature, because it cuts down on a bunch of shit, because I don't like all these corrupt politicians having to wait to fucking go and get indicted and then go through congressional Senate hearings. These things are fucking monstrosity. They go on forever. They're boring. I like the adversarial nature that the British have to do that. But I like the fact that things can't get done very quickly here, only that it prevents corruption. It prevents people from getting things, putting forth bills that shouldn't need to be put forth, and that people talk about the things. But the problem I do see, and I will get through this, the bills that we have are, some of them are ridiculous. I mean, when you've got 2,000 pages in a bill that nobody's fucking read, that wants it signed into legislation, there's a problem there. I mean, some of these bills, nobody's read them.
Yeah, but that's another thing. As I understand it, the legislation that is passed can actually be inserted by congressmen in the process of going through your house, and nobody actually knows where it came from. Whereas in this country, the government always initiates legislation, although there are some special occasions when you can get a private member's bill. But it's always gone through. It goes through a rigorous process in Parliament.
We know where they came from. They're called writers. They're attached to the bill. Basically,
right. Yeah, so that sort of thing can't happen.
I will vote for your bill if you
Yeah, see, none of that happens in this country at all.
Yeah.
None of that. There's no.
Well, I agree. That needs to go away. There's no question about that.
And that's because everybody's just out for serving their constituents, because the only thing they are really answerable, these congressmen, as far as I see it, seems to be to their constituents. Whether they are good at government or not is irrelevant. They're just interested. The constituents are just interested in representing, I don't know. And of course, the way they could gerrymander the constituencies means that they're basically there for life. Many of them.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, if it looks like Hillary's probably going to win, but again, not a done deal. There's a small shot. I mean, it's statistically near insignificant, but there is a possibility Trump could win. It's not like it's zero. People say that he's zero. It's not. I mean, if you look at the polls, it's very, very low, but it does exist. But
Nate Silver's 90%, I think, isn't he?
It's 80. It's 80 some odd percent toward her.
Nearly 90.
But my point being is that when she gets in office, I don't want a president that's going to be indicted right off the bat. If these emails if there's a bigger problem to them, right?
Yeah, you've got a big problem. Yeah, your two candidates are absolutely appalling. I'll agree with you there. Yeah,
I'm willing to make a prediction though. If Hillary wins, as whatever time she spends in office, it's going to be wroth with scandal, and it's going to be ugly. It's not going to be pretty. People from both sides, even her own camp, I think, are going to attack her. And I think she's going to never get anything done. I don't think she's going to be an effective president. I think it's going to be just like the 80s. People are going to be focused on the fact that she's a Clinton, and that all the shit that's ever been scandalized before with her is going to come up in some point in time. I'm telling you, mark my words on this.
But Steve, and as I've said in that Newsnight interview, the guy who listed the biography of him for that the art of the deal, he said that Trump has the attention span of a gnat.
Well, yeah, so what? But this is opinion of one guy. He's maybe political.
He's the guy who saw an action.
I think Clinton is Satan. And yet, I'm a friend of yours, and you trust the fact that she's not. So why are you taking this guy's word that you barely?
I think the reason you sort of semi-favor Trump is the fact that you want to see things change.
Yes.
And what you don't realize is that things could just get a whole lot worse.
And I'm willing to take that chance. I'm like, roll the dice. Let's take a wild card and go from there.
Yeah, see, that's that. And I've seen this. BBC Newsnight again, and I said again. They went to is it Georgetown or Youngstown in Ohio, and they went to all these sort of Trump supporters and all these people who were in the Rust Belt where the local industry had gone down. They couldn't get well-paid jobs. They couldn't get secure jobs. They could only get very low-paid and insecure jobs. And so these people were thinking that they're inexorably going to see a decline in their future. So they thought, we need to see a change. These people were saying, that's what they could see. Their future at the moment was bad. So they thought that, if they went for Trump, at least it would be a different future that's offered to them. Unfortunately, what they don't realize is what they've got. It's a bit like the UK, 40 years ago, we've got all this, we had to suffer all this overseas competition from Japan and Europe, etc., and our industry declined, and now you're suffering the same thing in the US. Unfortunately, what you don't realize is things can get a whole lot worse. It's like being on the ISS. Everything you do, providing you've got a space station there, you could always make the situation worse. And unfortunately, Trump is like being in the ISS, and then
wait. Now we have a problem. You just said that the president has very limited power, and then you're saying he can make things much worse. What is it? I mean, how much can he fuck things up?
Well, what he can do, I mean, he can be corrupt. Well, for a start, okay, you're right that you're absolutely right. There is inertia. He can make it worse though. But for instance, if he doesn't want to have trade deals.
We're not heading into World War three, right? And as far
Well-
as trade dealers, he's really against kind of most trade dealers, right? He doesn't.
Yes.
He's not a fan of NAFTA. He hated NAFTA. And so, I mean, I like certain trade deals, but I think the ones we've had were very lopsided. I think we gave away the farm.
Well, I think
And
that's
it did help people send shit overseas, right? We lost a lot of business and a lot of jobs.
yeah, but I think it probably might have been even worse if we didn't have those trade. I mean, the point. Okay, I mean, you're right that the president is limited in what he can do, as we described. But he can make you can always make a situation worse. And Trump, I'm afraid, as though you're desperate looking for change, I'm afraid I think Trump would make things worse. And his understanding. As I say, he's ear for detail. This guy who spent a year listening in on his deals and trying to get him to talk to him, and he just couldn't get this guy's attention. And he saw his in business. He would not be interested in being a proactive, useful president. He just likes the idea of being president for his self-gratification and aggrandizement. This guy would not do anything useful for anybody but himself.
I think it'd be fun. I really
You
think
don't want to play with things like your country.
I'm willing to take this, dude.
I'm looking for change.
Dude, I live here. I want to see change, and I'm thinking that Trump will be a hell of a lot more.
You're in the ISS.
Good,
Imagine in the ISS, and you've got a little bit of a leak,
assumption that you're making assumptions that Trump is going to make it worse. I mean, I'm telling you right now. Would you rather take a chance of somebody at least being a wild card? And by the way, somebody mentioned that I had the wrong dates. I don't know why I keep thinking Clinton was 80. I know Clinton was in the 93. When he was first elected, I know that, and then whatever, like early 2000, 8 years, yeah, so 2001. So, but I mean, I detest Hillary, right? I think she's a Satan incarnate. I think she's been manipulative all this time to get, Well, if you use the word competent to be a president, sure. Does she have the qualifications? I'll give her that. Okay, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be not horrible. That it won't be just one scandal after another. It's going to be a political nightmare. I think it's going to be very ineffective. I think it's going to be ridiculous.
I get the impression she's quite an ineffective person. Yes, I'd go that far.
And even Trump pointed that out. She's like, you've had all these years. You've had 30, 40, 50, 60,
the
whatever
system,
years
Steve, the system.
You can't blame it on. No, you can't blame it on the system. No,
Steve,
bullshit.
You've got the president trying to implement Obamacare. He's trying to implement gun control. You just can't do it because you can't do anything in the U.S. system. And
well, then what's the point of having a president? If that's the reasoning, then why have an election?
Well, because you've got the Constitution.
Why have anybody in politics? You're basically saying that Clinton is like any other politician now that nothing can get done because of politics. So she's ineffective because politics. Well, I don't buy that because other politicians have gotten stuff done.
What?
Not very much, I don't think. The U.S. system doesn't really allow it.
It's slow. Yeah, it's slow.
Yeah, you've got a terrible system, I'm afraid.
Yeah,
I mean, as I say, you've got an example here where Obama has been elected to implement Obamacare. He can't do it because of your system. He's trying to introduce gun control. He can't do it because of your political system. So why you expect Clinton? To be able to achieve
first of all, Obamacare was a joke. Obamacare was a joke. It was extremely poorly written. As somebody pointed out, it was just a reconstituted old healthcare program from many years prior, reformulated, and it was nobody had read the damn thing. Nobody in our country knew what the fuck was in that bill. Obamacare had never been read by a single senator.
It was compromised.
That's not true.
It was compromised.
When they asked them who read them, nobody had fucking read it.
What?
It was unreadable.
No, it's not true.
Yeah, I think you're making stuff up, Steve.
Nancy Pelosi said she read the entire thing?
I don't know. She said
we have to pass it to find out what's in it.
Yeah, I remember. Oh, that's right. I remember that. Yeah. Yeah, no, she did. Yeah, Nancy Pelosi said before we can find out what's in it, we have to pass it. Right? I mean,
it was still being debated for the longest time.
Is that not what she said?
I don't know what Nancy Pelosi said, but
I remember that she actually said
irrelevant to the fact that it's irrelevant to the fact that they were still amending it. Thus, they had to read it to take stuff out and put stuff in to adjust things. That's why it was held out to be voted on for so long, is because they were still trying to amend it to make it single payer for universal health care.
There's a lot of things they needed to fix before they passed it, though, and that was the problem. They're trying to pass it without fixing it.
Right, and finally, the holdout said, "Fine, we'll take this for now," and it had more benefits than it did had more pros than cons in it at the time.
You do agree, JJ, that overwhelmingly in America, whether you like it or not, overwhelmingly in America, almost every person here hated Obamacare, the idea of it, correct?
I do not agree with that,
No,
no.
that sounds ridiculous.
Wow.
You've got 50
Wow,
million
you serious?
people, Steve.
Yeah, I
in
don't
your
know why
country.
you would say such a stupid thing.
Because I have had a person in real life, I think, that really supported it. In my workforce, they all hated
And that's really bad reasoning.
because it was out of pocket to them so much that they were forced to get the company that I worked for actually got rid of their healthcare thing, and then they changed up, and now people are actually paying a shit ton of money for Obamacare.
You're saying that because companies stopped paying for healthcare, it's
dropped their healthcare insurance. Yeah,
it's so that's the Affordable Health Care's fault that companies that were previously paying
well, that's
for their employees'
and in result,
healthcare
people paid a lot more out of pocket.
But that's
Okay,
not
what
a
is
direct.
the
That's not.
rating?
It's not a logical correlation.
Sure it is.
Steve, you're peddling and
One sec.
Pelosi. This Nancy Pelosi's famous quote about she's not
So
saying she had.
wait.
You're really misinterpreting this. Just reading some stuff about this, she was not saying she had. She was the conservative press was saying that they didn't want to get a chance to read it, so they could vote against it.
I don't think she read it. I could be wrong, but I don't think Nancy
Steve.
Pelosi read the whole thing.
Oh, Steve,
It was huge.
Oh God, yeah. The conservative press.
Okay, well, let's go one thing at a time. Okay, according to a survey released on the Pew Research Center, 54% of Americans disapprove of Obamacare. 54%. 54%. That's
okay,
over the majority.
What's
This
this
was dated,
general level of support now? Because the right.
It's a study shows surge. Studies show surge by U.S. News. Studies show surge in disapproval ratings of Obamacare.
And according to that poll you just cited, what is the margin of error?
Hang on.
What is the margin of error?
Hey, hang on. This is April 27th, 2016. Well, even if it's a high margin of error, I mean, even if it's really high, I mean, 54%.
Then try to extrapolate the significance of that poll. I would say that the significance is non-significant.
It has gone up. It has gone up from 44% in 2010 to 54% to today. That's a 10-point gain. Okay, that is significant.
Right. So
no, against it. Disapproval.
Interesting.
I mean,
I wonder if they're polling people without phones.
I mean, I just find it incredible that people think that giving
I gotta have 5 for a second. I gotta my computer's doing
to health insurance companies is a good thing. It's just incredible.
My computer's crashing.
The problem with Obamacare is it's a solution to a non-existent problem. And
what do you mean a non-existent problem? You've got 50 million people uninsured who can't get health care. If they fall over, they become bankrupt.
I gotta reload.
Yeah, and see that's the one problem. It was a solution to a few problems, not all problems. It allowed more people to be covered, as in they couldn't be denied, so that they got at least some help, some insurance help.
The issue with American healthcare is that prices are artificially high.
Yeah.
That's true. Sure. And I would say that that's also because of insurance.
No. Actually, I'd say that the biggest reason is because of regulation.
Which regulation would cause healthcare to be artificially high?
Regulation creates artificial scarcity on markets, and in the case of healthcare,
which regulation?
Oh, there's plenty of them. Like there's certificate of need regulations. For example, you can't even build a new hospital facility in any state without a letter from the state government saying that.
How does that artificially inflate healthcare costs?
I'm explaining. Okay, so you've got what's called certificate of need, right? In order to build a new hospital in the U.S., you have to get what's called a certificate of need from the state government to build a new hospital. That certificate of need is signed off and verified by the existing hospitals. So they determine whether or not they need competition and the extent of the competition that is going to exist. That automatically puts upward pressure on prices and availability. One. All right.
Okay. So that's valid as far as calling that a regulation that would potentially artificially inflate healthcare costs. The biggest problem, though, is that hospitals are for-profit industry.
Yeah.
That is why healthcare is artificially inflated.
I don't think you quite...
Because the people that are supposed to help you are really out to make a buck.
Let me just tell you one thing. It might surprise you. You might have heard the NHS. In the UK, we spend 9% of our GDP on healthcare, and oddly, right now, Steve, you're about to be very surprised. Do you know how much the US state spends on healthcare? It's 9%.
Is it really?
That's on Medicaid and Medicare.
Okay, yeah.
Both of those come to 9% of American GDP. So in other words, you're spending 9% of your GDP just doing these whatever the Medicare and Medicaid
but it's
people. Hold on, let me finish this. This is quite important.
Because there's two reasons for that.
Okay, but right. But the rest of the people who have to pay for it themselves, it actually takes up to 19%. If you include the other people who actually have to pay for it, 19% of the US GDP goes on healthcare. Nowhere else in the world comes close to that. And yet your service is no better. In fact, what's more, as I say, that amount of money doesn't include 50 million, or was it 1/5 of your population having any healthcare? So you've got 19% of your GDP, and you don't even cover 1/5 of your population. Whereas we've got 9% of our GDP on, and that covers everybody for everything.
There's two problems with the system right now. One, the outrageous high cost of things in a hospital and healthcare. I mean, they're factors, factors of what their actual cost is, right? I mean, the profit margin is ridiculously high.
Yeah, because you have to have a national health service.
And the second one is that
you don't have competition.
Well, no, there's problems with the National Health Service too. I mean, Canada's not by any means perfect. I mean, they have a system like that, and you have to wait 5, 6, 7 months, sometimes years. But the other thing is that people that have this type of system, they tend to go more often, right? Because it's this is paid for, and they think they take advantage of it. And I think there needs to be a cap on that somehow. And it can't be, hey, look at I've got a cold. It's
Yeah, well, we've got the same with the Steve. We've got that. That's the situation in the NHS here, but we don't have that problem. Doctors simply don't refer people because they don't have an incentive to send people
whatever
off.
the reasons might be different. That you don't have that, but it does happen here.
Well, that's because you've got a perverse incentive then for people, because they get the insurance companies. When you go to hospitals, I understand in the US, because the insurance companies want as much paid, the hospitals have got incentive to actually treat them as much as possible.
Yeah.
Rumpus, do you have any private health insurance in the UK?
Oh yes, we do have it. You can take it out.
People say the Canadian statistics is a myth, but I just talked to Hogtie, and he told me the exact same thing, that he has to wait a long time for things.
You do sometimes on some things, yes. But you can take around private, but there's nothing stopping you taking out private health insurance in this country, and it's actually quite, it's relatively cheap. But you can do it, and that's fine if you want to get quick access. You can do that, but most of the time, the access, certainly for your accident, emergency, or some serious condition, you get treated immediately.
But don't you think we should start? Don't you think we should start lowering the cost? I mean, that to me would be
but that's caused by the fact you've only got.
And ironically, then you have people dying in emergency rooms here because they're waiting.
No, I don't know about that.
And 50 million.
There are at least a few instances
that might be true, but that
have been publicized in the last year. Well, yeah, but I mean, still,
because in the system now is set up that even if you can't afford to pay, if it's an emergency situation, they're required to take care of you.
Yeah, but unfortunately,
that's true.
I understand that, but I think
it's true. But depending on the hospital you go then to and how they're staffed,
I was going to say
they can neglect you.
Again, let me finish. I think it's a competency issue with the workers there, not of the system.
Steve.
And by the way, Mithridates, who is a general practitioner, says, JJ, you're full of shit. That's just FYI.
About what?
I don't know. He says you're spewing a lot of wrongness.
About what?
I don't know.
I'm just recalling a few cases of people dying while they're waiting in the emergency room because of neglect.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't happen. But again, and I'm just saying I'm recalling stories about it that were publicized in the media. Mithridates, why don't you just come in here and explain to JJ?
When I was in the Oxford Literary Festival thing, I had a couple of Americans who were next to me. And they're saying also, of course, that the healthcare you've got, because it comes via your employer, you've no idea what it covers. So it's quite possible that when you're ill, that the cover doesn't cover you. And this is why people go bankrupt in the US when they become ill, even the people who are covered.
Yeah, of course that does happen, but it's not as prevalent as people make it out. I mean, yes, that's
even though you've got 19% of your
Mike,
GDP, 19% of your GDP is on healthcare.
The core thing is what I said is, if you're going to reform the system, start with the overwhelming, ridiculous prices being charged. Start with
but your system encourages that. You can only and it states, I think, well, you only get
doesn't
2
encourage
people.
It's just the way it's what's happened. We've allowed it to happen because people are passing shit all the time and they don't know what the fuck they're passing.
So, for instance, in this country, when the NHS negotiates, for instance, a hip joints, they can, because they got the whole country to cover, and they can put in this big order for hip joints, whatever, they can go to the firm and say, right, you're going to give us a bloody good deal on hip joints. We don't care what you charge in the US. We're going to demand you give us a fantastic deal because you're going to get the entire country. So because you've got that great market to do, in fact, the NHS, I think, is the biggest healthcare market in the world. We can get fantastic deals on drugs and etc., and any healthcare products and treatment, and therefore that's very, very efficient. Whereas you've got in any one state, as I understand it, you've only got about 2 options for your healthcare, which means that they can be in sort of inclusion in effect. You've got a cartel almost, and then you've got all these insurance people running around earning great wads of cash, and in a cartel and charging you the earth. It's ridiculous.
I'm saying that again. Whatever the reasons are, the key is lowering the cost. I mean, we can talk for days what the reasons are, but that is the fundamental thing is the cost has to be lowered. JJ, hang on a sec. JJ said Mithra said that JJ, you're wrong about companies not dropping insurances as a direct result for Obamacare, and I know you're wrong on that because I've seen it.
No, I'm just saying that there's blaming the Affordable Health Care Act for a company using that as an excuse to stop paying for their employees' insurance is silly.
But what do you mean? I don't know. Why is that silly? That's why they stopped it.
Well, you think if there wasn't the Affordable Health Care Act, they'd want to keep shelling out that money for their employees?
Depends. I mean,
no, I'm just saying them using it as an excuse is irrelevant. That's what I'm saying.
You're placing the blame on the business
for discontinuing their employees' insurance. Yes, that's who's to blame.
Wow. Okay.
The person who commits the act. They can use whatever excuse they want.
Here's what you got.
I blame Obamacare on that.
It's a profit loss motivated situation, and it is more cost effective for a business to discontinue their healthcare plan and have their employees get on something like Medicaid or something like that than it is to maintain an Affordable Care Act compliant healthcare package. That's why they're dropping their healthcare.
Yeah, it's a very because it is. Yeah, I agree with that.
Steve.
Yeah, hang on, Nestle, hang on. Go ahead, Slim. Finish.
All right.
That was just my point.
Yeah, because the companies were I mean, it was cost ineffective. The Obamacare made it very, very cost ineffective. They were pricing themselves out of the.
Well, I'm confused. You're saying that it was cost effective for them to pay for their employees' insurance before that?
You're missing the whole point, JJ.
I'm not missing the point.
Especially for businesses under $250,000, right? For small businesses.
So if you're saying that,
JJ, listen, for businesses around $250,000, they could not afford it. They literally would be put out of business because of it. They had to drop it.
They could afford it. They could afford it before the Affordable Health Care Act?
Yes.
But they couldn't afford it afterwards?
Correct.
Because the price of the insurance went up?
Yes, the amount of things, the prices have changed quite a bit. The amount of coverage.
For better insurance, Steve. It was a better insurance. Right? There's a minimum.
That may be true. That might be true. Yes. Yeah, but you're right, Rumpus. Right.
Oh, well, there we go then. So in other words, insurance didn't cover anything useful to something that did cover something useful.
Rumpus, you're not listening, and neither is JJ. If you guys do not have a business because you're put out of business because you can't afford it, then nobody gets covered. That's the problem that we're running into this country here. We had small businesses that they would have been priced out of existence. And instead of having decent coverage, and not the best, but decent, people would have had no coverage because the company would have been insolvent. That's the problem we're running into because of Obamacare. Mithridates, what I just said, do you agree with, by the way, Mithridates? You're in this profession. Do you agree? And Off Kilter says I'm using a bad argument. I don't think so. I think this is the argument. I think this is exactly what happened. And I want Mithridates, who's in the medical profession, does he agree with that or disagree that these small businesses would have been screwed because of the cost of Obamacare? Have they not dropped it, their affordable health care?
Can I now ask a question to you?
Yeah.
What do you think about the healthcare system in European countries like Norway? And would you have a problem with such a system being implemented in America?
No, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I mean, I don't know. Again, I'm not a big fan of socialized medicine because I don't think it's worked too well overseas. But if they could come up with a way to do it properly, I'm not totally against it. No. And Mithridates said Steve is totally right. Thank you, Mithridates, because I really am believe that I'm very much right on this because I've been in business, for a very long time, and I understand. I worked with people at the healthcare, and I worked with people, and it's very, very fucking ridiculously expensive with Obamacare for the companies, and for a small business, they just couldn't do it. And Mithridates, we're not doxing him.
Did the Affordable Health Care Act require insurance companies to raise their premiums?
Well, they would have gone up. I don't know what the requirements were, but they would have definitely been a lot more. The companies themselves would have had to pay quite a bit more under Obamacare, significantly more.
Well, to answer that question, you also have to ask yourself what causes a company to raise premiums in the first place.
Well, as Mithridates points out, like, OB coverage for people who didn't need it.
Any number of things can cause that.
I agree with that. Any number of things. But the end result is the fact that
generally speaking, when premiums change, it's because the type of coverage changes.
Or the number of people, or the amount of money they have, the amount of profit they expect to make. And that's, again, a problem, I think, with insurance. I think that insurance companies should be required to be nonprofit.
Yeah.
Personally. As should healthcare.
Myth has got a sore throat. Come in for a minute. Just whisper. Myth.
Sorry?
I want Mithridates to come in for a second.
Oh.
He says he's sick and got a sore throat. But I mean, he agrees with me wholeheartedly, and I appreciate that because he's somebody in the profession, so he sees us, like pretty much. I'm getting echo. Why do I keep getting echo? But anyways, I mean, I don't want to keep this hanging out too much longer, so I actually want a short hangout on this because it's a little bit topical. Yeah, hey, yeah, physician heal thyself myth. Go see a doctor. But anyways, if you guys want, I'll let you guys have the last word on this. I mean, go ahead, and then because I can't get Mithra in here.
Ronald Reagan sucked in my timeline, in my quantum reality.
Well, in your quantum reality, they don't have helping verbs or whatever.
My opinion is that universal healthcare works better than business healthcare, or something. How do you call it? Healthcare provided by companies.
Oh, Mithra's going to come in for a second.
Hey guys, I got to run, so I just want to say it's been nice talking to y'all, and thank you for indulging.
Yes, Slim, always a pleasure, man. No, I like when you come in here. You're kind of a breath of fresh air, and you have a different insight, and I like that. So
I agree.
Man, I try.
Yeah, that's cool.
And now that I have new insight on you, Slim, I'll take note of that next time.
Yeah, so join us anytime. Myth, I sent you the link via Google Plus Instant. There you go. You see it now. And then Rumpus, get your last word in now because after. By the
way, your basic argument about the fact that these companies couldn't afford the care just simply suggests they weren't providing healthcare of a minimum standard, and the fact that the US spends 19% of its GDP on healthcare just tells you what a cocked up system it is.
No, that's absolutely
9%. 9% of our GDP goes on healthcare, and that covers everybody.
People had decent healthcare. It was not what you were referring to as like crappy healthcare. The healthcare was decent, and it did, and the Obamacare did price a lot of these.
50 million people in your country have no healthcare.
That's a different argument.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're talking apples and oranges here at Rumpus.
But you've got
different things here, Rumpus.
19% of your GDP is based on healthcare. You don't even cover 50 million people.
But you're talking about a quality of standard over the quality of standard, right? You're talking about how many people are actually have insurance rather than the quality of standard provided prior to Obamacare. And you didn't address my argument that is a fact that these small businesses would have been out of business because of Obamacare. They could,
right, but if you have a national health service The 9%, I'm just saying the 9% that you currently spend in the US on Medicare and Medicaid could cover everybody if you had an efficient healthcare system. Instead, you're spending 19% of your GDP on and missing out 50 million people.
Rumpus, how do you suggest we have a more efficient system?
Well, you could have the Norwegian system. I don't quite know that, so I suspect it's infinitely more efficient, or just simply the British system with NHS.
Well, how about the VA system? The VA system is really good. Something structured along those lines.
The what system?
Our VA system is really good.
I don't know. What's that? What's that? Sorry.
Veterans Administration.
Well, I'm talking about. Well, okay, that's a specific area. We don't have to deal with. Let's just deal with the overall system.
The point is, a system that works really well.
Right, and it's government run.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the NHS. Okay, yes. Effectively, Steve, you're saying you want the act to expand. Would that be like having an NHS then?
Something along those lines.
Yeah, okay, so you're right, great. So there you are. You're advocating the same way. And what's more, if you had that system, that because there's no insurance people trying to make great wads of cash out of it as a middleman, you would then be able to spend 9% of your GDP on some standard version of your VA care, and everybody could get covered.
But the question was dealing with Obamacare specifically, and I think.
Yeah, but Steve, these companies wouldn't have to pay any health care with a system like that.
And I love the VA. I think the VA was great. I think
yes. Well, then you agree, then, Steve. Yeah. The VA is tax funded and government run. Yes. And if we all had VA, which we all would if we had compulsory service, which I think we should.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I don't think we have compulsory service.
Then it would make sense that we would all be covered
yeah, Steve,
by the VA, the state-run, tax-funded healthcare service.
Steve, in this country, companies pay nothing.
5 different conversations going on at once. First of all, I can't believe you guys think that we have compulsory service. That scares me.
No, we don't. That was just an aside. Forget that. Don't introduce that. That's the red herring.
But we're talking about Obamacare, okay? And Obamacare, I want Mithras to address that. Mithras, what I said about Obamacare, how was I wrong on that?
You weren't wrong. You're exactly correct. This is a factual point. Sorry for my voice, guys.
Could you say how he was right on Obamacare?
Yeah, I'm about to. This is a factual point here about smaller companies having to drop the more expensive coverages that were mandated by Obamacare. I mean, I mean, if you Google it, you'll find it. I know it is. It's well established. It's well researched. It was a big thing. Obama actually, they tried to penalize companies from doing that, but that's unconstitutional.
They were initially going to give them fines if they didn't. Right?
Yeah, there's also exactly. There's also a minimum number. I forget. I think it's 50 full-time employees. So maybe somebody can look it up. But whatever it is, another thing that companies would do is drop the number of employees to get under that minimum, so they wouldn't have to.
In every other country around the world, companies are not responsible for generating the health care.
Here's the point. My point is this: it's not the general argument. On this specific point, you guys are just factually wrong about this one issue.
No,
I agree with you.
I didn't disagree with Steve
about the general idea of a lot of what you're saying. But the general idea that Obamacare, the way it was priced and set up, did not force smaller companies to drop coverage.
And that's what you guys said.
I never disputed that.
I think
I just said it. No, I didn't, Steve. I never said.
JJ did.
I believe you. I know JJ did, though.
Yeah, well, I certainly didn't. And I
said that blaming Obamacare for companies dropping coverage.
It was a direct was not good enough.
It's not silly. It's not silly. It's a direct result.
Yeah, well, that's an insane system, and it means they're not providing a minimum level of coverage.
But I don't. There's still people argue. I still don't even know how this is a contentious point. This is well documented. This was the big fact. This was the problem that they were talking about small businesses when it came to Obamacare. This was the problem. It's $250,000 or more. Or I think 50 employees. I think Mithras is right on that.
So you've got an insane system, but he didn't want to go. He would have preferred to go something more radical, but he was stopped.
Again, missing the point.
That's not the point.
No, I'm not missing the point. Because that
missing the point.
Exist. The problem you're describing wouldn't exist if Obama had been able to do what he wanted to do. But unfortunately, he had to go through the private insurance route because the Republicans wouldn't let him have anything.
Let's do this systematically real quick.
I'll tell you what makes it worse. Go ahead, Steve.
I'll just say real quick. Did Obamacare cost more for small businesses, Rumpus? Yes or no?
To meet a better standard, possibly yes.
Okay, yes. Now, was there companies that could not afford that and they would have gone out of business had they had to pay those premiums?
Quite possibly.
Okay, would that have put people out of jobs? That had these people had coverage before, they now have no coverage. And you think that's okay?
Yeah, no. You see, Steve, you're trying to find one small little problem you've got because you're insane.
This is not a small problem.
This is not a small problem. Am I right or am I wrong about that? Would it have put businesses out of business and people would have lost their jobs? Yes or no?
Right, but the point is, Steve, that the system that Obama would want to implement wouldn't have involved. You shouldn't have companies being responsible for funding your health care.
Let me piggyback
on out taxation or private insurance.
But that's jumping ahead to a different conversation. We'll stay focused on the topic at hand here. Let me piggyback on what Steve was saying. My mother actually lost her health insurance because this exact situation. She works at a small place. They couldn't afford the new premiums.
But was it a health system worth having? Was that insurance she had worth having?
Yes.
Are you sure about that?
She's 60-something years old. She doesn't need OB coverage.
I have a question, though.
She's 60 years old. She's not going to need OB coverage. I'm trying to explain to you why it was better.
But did it cover useful things?
No, I'm trying to explain that to you.
Because it probably added OB. Your mom's not going to be worried about having OB at 65.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It was that kind of stuff. And this is what makes it worse, is she couldn't afford a lot of people were in a situation where once they lost that coverage they had before, they couldn't afford the new higher premiums in the marketplace, right? And what makes it even worse than that, there's actually a penalty that imposed on people for not having insurance. You know, that was the whole thing up to the Supreme Court. Is it a tax or is it a I forget the other word they use for it, a fee? You know, they tried to say it was a fee, not a tax, but at the same time, the Obama lawyers argued Supreme Court there's actually a tax. That's how it got passed constitutionally, because it was upheld because it was under the IRS tax power. So those people actually lost their insurance, didn't have insurance, and then to add insult to injury, had to pay a tax or fee for not having insurance, and still at the end of the day didn't have insurance.
And let me ask you, Myth, there's a difference, I think, between better and more comprehensive.
Well, yeah, I just want to note exactly that.
Yeah, certain people don't need certain things, and we don't give a shit if their insurance is more comprehensive. It has to do with how much their out-of-pocket expenses, what their deductible is, what they're covered for, as far as the same coverage everybody kind of needs, right? Just basic medical care.
So you're saying that Obamacare mandated that these companies have better insurance?
Well, again, what do you mean by better?
Which would
if I'm 65 years of age, why do I have to pay for more insurance on something like OBGYN or birth control or whatever if it's not applicable to me? Right?
Exactly. That's exactly the point.
The problem is,
I think it's better insurance, but why? But why would you want to pay for that if you don't need it? And that's mandated to in Obamacare.
But the problem,
it's not optional.
The problem is, Steve, that we are living in society with many people, and not a lot of people can afford it.
I think that's a terrible excuse, though.
We need to find a solution that we can solve by all of us at least contribute.
But because of that, small businesses that had insurance for people that people utilized, that people thought were fine, and then all of a sudden they were out of a job and they had no insurance.
I also know people lost their job because of it.
Yeah.
I don't think that the adding of OBGYN coverage was significant to the premium. No, it's just something that's thrown in, right?
It's significant.
I mean, I doubt that it was very significant to the dollar amount limit to that level of insurance, though.
I don't have the numbers, but I think it was a pretty significant amount.
Yeah. How much could that really add to that? The different levels of insurance are going to cover so much, right? Obviously, different types of things, but generally to a limited dollar amount, right?
All I can say, this is well documented,
right?
And you're
right?
Incorrect.
Okay. Then I don't know. I don't understand insurance then.
Well, but Myth, you work with medical insurance, obviously, right? You've had some experience with it, clearly, right?
A lot.
I mean, so
I agree with them actually on their broader points. It's just this thing.
Yeah, and I do too. I think
does Obamacare make people lose coverage in many instances? This is just well documented, and they just need to say, "Oh, I didn't know."
I agree with Rumpus on a lot of points too.
No. What I'm saying is that the insurance companies are to blame. That's what I'm trying to point out. That Obamacare
is to blame for the company going out
setting a standard for health insurance
Again,
is not the problem.
I think you
it's the insurance companies who are causing people to lose their insurance.
Yeah, if the insurance company, I can't believe you're putting me in a position to defend insurance companies. Oh my god!
But I think I don't think he's on the same thread. That's the problem. I think
but
JD, you're just not on the same thread right now with us.
When you're mandated to have a more comprehensive plan, that's going to cost more money. That part is actually not the insurance company's fault.
That's the plan's fault.
It's the plan's fault.
No,
it's Obama's
the insurance company charges ridiculous amounts because they've got to finance a healthcare system that charges so much because it's so corrupt and self-serving and a cabal.
How many people were added to the pool for insurance by it? You would think that would cause all premiums to go down, right? When you add to the pool.
Yeah, and it took a while for the pool to ramp up as much as they had wanted it to in the beginning. The enrollment was pretty slow starting off. They had to build up. But yeah, adding more people to the pool that are young, they do models. Well, it doesn't matter. But a lot of the people that they're adding to the pool though tend to be younger people that didn't have insurance before. So people who would pay in but not be taking out because they don't have the chronic illnesses and such. One of the problems though is they set that age at like 26. You can still be under your parents' healthcare. Your parents' insurance, which is
and this is the idea, and this is the way taxation works. When in every other country, people pay taxes throughout their entire life effectively to then recoup that payment they've been paying into their healthcare, effectively into the government's coffers. So they can then effectively make that withdrawal near the end of their life when they need it. And that's what people need to be encouraged to do with healthcare. You need effectively to build up that sort of fund, and effectively by being taxed throughout that period, as we are in this country, to cover it. Therefore, you effectively so people don't have to worry about them taking responsible decisions when they're 26 about whether they've got to take healthcare or not, and suddenly find the end of life they don't have it. Whereas if you were taxed over your entire lifetime, it's sort of semi-sustainable. Though in fact, even now, unfortunately, we're now hitting problems in this country where, with an aging population, in the 80s, we're finding that's actually becoming more problematic, and we may have to radically increase the by a few percent or something of the GDP. But at the moment, the mere fact you've got 19% of your GDP spent on healthcare suggests you've really got a big problem, and you still don't have.
Nobody's denying that we don't have a healthcare problem.
Yeah, it's a big problem.
Yeah, that's why we're discussing it.
Yes, but it's odd that you've got this great lot of people who aren't covered, plus the fact you spend twice as much on healthcare as any other country, and you don't have as good a coverage. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a big problem.
But I'm wondering, are those numbers factoring in VA as well?
Yeah, everything. Oh, okay. The whole. I mean, we only so 9 because something like veterans use the NHS. They just everybody's covered in this country. You are covered. I mean, but sometimes there are waiting lists for something. But if you are concerned about that, you can take out your own personal health insurance to get that bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky. I have two insurances. I have my VA, and I also got what's called Inland Empire health insurance that I applied for, and got full coverage. And I got lucky. Yeah, I got excellent coverage. I mean,
so Steve, you're effectively like an NHS person over here. You probably got a bit better actually because
everything's paid. I got everything.
Yeah, and in this country, that's right. We don't have to worry about falling over and hurting ourselves. No one has to worry about work funding it. And I don't know what situations like in Norway, but I think you've got a probably compulsory sort of private insurance, which is effectively the same as saying that younger people having to basically they're forced to take on an insurance policy, whereas in the US you've had the option of not doing so, and then only in the end of life, and that therefore it becomes extra expensive. But in other countries like France, I think, for instance,
end of life healthcare is extremely expensive. Yeah,
that's a big issue.
That's massive issue.
Yeah, and that's one of the most important topics in this conversation is how much we spend in the life care.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more on that one. And another topic we'd even touched was the rising cost of prescription medication. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, our NHS keeps those costs down. We get something. Our medicines, I think, is something like 1/10 the price you have in the US. In effect, or something. Generally, not always, but quite often there's that sort of scale where we just insist on good deals, and we've got this vast, biggest market in the world for healthcare. And so we can say to these drug companies, if you want to sell into this, you have to give us a rock bottom deal on this, otherwise we'll go to someone else. And so they do.
Do we? I mean, the drug companies, how much they charge the stuff I had to take. I just looked it up. Okay, it was polyethylene glycol, and it was $32.95 from a meth lab. No, it's a med lab, a med lab supplier. And yet, it probably cost them like $1, right? I mean, $32 for this stuff to make you go shit. I mean, come on, that's ridiculously high.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they
Just a
claim
powder.
that the research and development. Yeah, but you're not allowing for development costs there, Steve.
Well, I understand that, but my God, it seems awfully high. And they're not even close to some of the other things that some of these more designer type things, these really high end medications, like for HIV, was extremely expensive. I mean, when you're talking things that are $1,000 a pill, what the fuck?
Yeah. Unfortunately, some of those. Yeah, I mean, sometimes the development costs, something like AIDS.
Okay, but what about
costs are absolutely
but
massive.
what about the shit they've raised? They had a cost on, and all of a sudden people acquired the company or the patent for it, and all of a sudden they decided, oh, we're going to raise the cost, 1,000-fold.
Epinephrine.
Interesting you should say that, Steve. We've just had in this country the same thing where some people, some companies, I think they were US or Canadian based, took over the rights to the patents of some common or garden drugs, and they took up the price of them by 1,000%. And now, finally, after a year of discovering this, the NHS has now taken these people to court, and they're going to charge these companies 10% of their international GDP. So there's going to be some massive fines for doing this coming from the NHS.
It should be. Myth, do you remember how much of those EpiPens go up? Do you remember? What the factor was? It was ridiculous.
Yeah, hundreds of percent. I think. Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah, profiteering, horrible profiteering.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's something you have to have too.
Yeah, that's what the worst thing, right? I mean, it's life or death.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that.
So the topics you got to think about here are moral hazard, both from the perspective of the patients and from the companies, right? 2, that these insurance companies are the devil, basically.
Yep. Yeah.
3, should we really be making profit off of sickness, right? Yep. And then end of life care, and then technology, right? This amount we spend on technology, and lastly, specialized care versus primary care, and where our country is lagging behind is on the primary care, the entry barrier. The specialized stuff, we're actually, people would come to here from England or Canada.
We have very qualified, competent specialists, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and we don't have enough GPs. Like myself.
You're the only competent one we know.
I wouldn't go that far.
And Steve, I think your claim about Nancy Pelosi not having read that bill, I think that's.
I don't know if she did. I don't
don't think she did.
Yeah, I don't think she did. If I remember correctly, I don't think anybody read the full thing.
No,
that was the problem.
Well, it's 1,000 pages long.
It was too big.
I understand that, but that doesn't distract from what my statement was, that I don't think Nancy Pelosi read all. I think it was 2,000 pages, was it? Or was it 1,000?
I think it was 2.
I think it's closer to 2,000 pages.
Yeah.
Right, but your suggestion that somehow it wasn't put through with thought, I think is just.
I know it wasn't put through with thought.
It was not put through with thought.
I know for a fact it wasn't. Yeah, it was 2,000 pages.
Well, it was compromised, wasn't it?
I don't know why you say it was put through without
it had
thought.
So many problems, and they just said, finally, let's just push it through, and then everybody
Which
wanted to know
problems?
who was in it, and then that's when Nancy Pelosi says, well, you know what, pass it first, and then we'll explain it to you. Even though they had no idea what the hell was in it.
And we'll work it out.
Steve. That's different, Steve, to saying she hasn't read it.
I just said she didn't read it. I just said, even though I just said, we'll pass it through, and then.
Yeah, well, that's different. That's just saying that,
I don't think she read it.
There was a multitude of problems with it that we could spend literally an hour.
She didn't have time to explain 1,000 pages to every bloody person.
It wasn't the explanation, the working of it out. It was still working it out. Because of the way the political moment was, and the way they were getting it passed, and the way that they're using the legislative tools at the moment kind of required them to push it through. But then the idea was to work some of these issues out, right? And it was a compromise, and it was ridiculously loaded up with all these problems that never really kind of got worked out.
Yeah, and let me read this report right
here. That's just facts.
Yeah, this is from wait, Rumpus. From CNS News. Nancy Pelosi won't say if she's read it to find out what's in it. She wouldn't even comment on this issue, whether she actually read it or not.
If she had read it, she would have said she did.
Absolutely. I don't think she read it. It says right here, Nancy Pelosi
Okay, well, she might not read every word, perhaps.
I'm not talking about every word. I'm talking about not even most of it.
Oh, come on.
I don't think she had a fucking clue was in there.
Oh, Steve, you're just being silly now.
I am not being silly.
Not having a clue
this was a big issue over here. When Obamacare was going through, this was the issue. This was the fact that it was so big, and that was on the radio, it was on NPR, that it was asking who's read it, and nobody came forth and said they read it. Nobody said that.
Yeah, but if she should be quite within her right, say if you could delegate, this little subclause which the Republicans insisted going in there, delegated that, reading that, and making sure that was fine. You can do that. You can delegate various tasks to then suggest, which is what you're doing, that basically went through unchecked by anybody, which is what you are sort of implying, is ridiculous.
It's not ridiculous. That's exactly what happened.
It did not go through the standard reconciliation processes that most bills do. It did not have. It was not refined. It was pushed through because of the political moment.
Absolutely.
And even the people who supported the bill will agree with what I just said.
Yes.
Will agree that the problems are in it and agree that things need to be done. And then you're in the camp. Hang on. And then you're in the camp of do we straighten all these problems out? Do we fix it? Do we repeal it and what the Republicans always say? Or do we just go ahead and have the single payer?
The mindset was let's pass this, fix the shit, at least we're doing something, rather than let's fix the shit first and do it right.
Yes. This is the first time in a generation we've had a chance to make this huge healthcare push, and they took it.
It was for political. It was for political expediency over here, Rumpus. Nothing more.
I'd agree that they were forced by a schedule because, of course, I think they realised that they only had 2 years or something before the House became Republican or something. So while they had a Democratic majority, they managed to get most of it through. And so there was a time imperative imposed by the fact the Republicans were going to obstruct it and then carried on to do so.
Right, and we don't have the time to discuss it here, but look at how it was passed, like the legislative tools that were used and how it was kind of pushed through. It's interesting if you're a political science nerd.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I agree. We was given a push.
I think it also take a lot of in-depth, reading to really get to the nuts and bolts and stuff like that. But I think it's a good overview that we had. But anyways, I'm gonna call this a close. I got to call my mom.
Steve.
Good talking to everybody.
Hey, Mithras, feel better. Sorry about your sore throat, man.
I got a steroid shot, so I'm feeling better.
Oh, corticosteroid?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck that. I had prednisone once, and I swear to God, that shit is nasty. I swear to you, my legs felt like tree trunks full of water. I could hear, I'm not lying to you, Myth, I could hear water sloshing in my legs. Is that weird?
Yeah, it's steroid psychosis is what that is.
Fuck.
Why did you get a steroid shot?
I had prednisone. What was it for?
Me or Steve?
No, I have a compression on my spine.
For you.
Just because I had to work, so I had to be productive. Can't be down with a lot of symptoms,
He has people to heal. He can't get sick. Heal yourself.
You take prednisone for that?
So if you have a viral illness, most of what makes you feel bad is your own immune system.
Right.
It's not so much the bug or what have you.
It's your body's reaction, right?
Yeah. All right, guys. Good talking to y'all.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
All right. Everybody got their last word in?
Yeah, I think
so. So you don't blame Obamacare then? Can't blame the virus for you feeling bad. Then you can't blame Obamacare.
Obamacare is the virus. But
it's a perfect analogy. I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you,
awesome.
Steve. One last thing. You must watch that Newsnight thing I posted in there earlier about the Newsnight interview that I linked to, interviewing the chap who spent a year who wrote The Art of the Deal and who spent a year interacting with Trump and seeing he said this guy has no positive points about him whatsoever. He couldn't think of anything positive about him, even though he wrote this book.
He may not like the guy. Yeah, he may not like the guy. But anyways, on that note, I thought this was a good hangout. Everybody kind of like politics. Obviously, people can get very politically charged. We didn't. I think we all. I think it was really good. I appreciate everything that Rumpus and JJ had to say. I think Rumpus is right on a lot of things. I think he's wrong on a lot of things too. Because we live over here and I remember these things very distinctly. I don't have the details, but I remember very clearly how these things were affecting us over here that I don't know overseas, maybe not translated over there. But anyways, I'm gonna end this hangout. I have to call my mom and do some other things. I might open another one later on tonight. But I want to thank the guys for coming in, Ness and Myth, especially. I know you're not feeling well. Everybody watching, I'm gonna put my Patreon one out there one last time, and let everybody know that we are having a debate on not this Friday, which is today, but next Friday. It's going to be Rumpus and Han Solo against two young Earth creationists, and it should be really entertaining.
Oh, wow.
Whoa. I wish I could be there.
I don't know what time. Well, I think it's going to be around 3 Pacific from what I understand, but we're working out the details and the format. However it actually goes, though, I think it's going to be freaking really, really interesting. The guy's a doctor, but he's a chiropractor, and we've looked over his physics, I guess you can say, and some of his science, and
We're not impressed.
Yeah.
Well, What is this topic specifically?
It's not topic specific per se. It's going to be on general things like, evolution. It's going to be on, it's going to be on chromosome 2, genetics. They're basically going to be supporting a pamphlet that Paul Humber puts out. He's the editor for it. And it's going to be claims that they have made in there about, the whole soft tissue with dinosaurs. How do we trust science? Radiometric stuff. It's gonna be typical shit. But hey, it was worse. The guy really wanted to initially talk about Piltdown Man. I'm like, no, no. I'm like, this is not fucking fruit in the ground. He's like, well, it's still an issue. I'm like, no, it's not. I'm like, first of all, we've talked about that to death.
Piltdown Man.
Yeah, I'm like, we want somebody to talk about the science, not this bullshit going back 150 years ago, 100 years ago, whatever it was.
Who the guy that you're going to interview?
One of the guys. One of the guys.
You're going to interview a guy who initially wanted to talk about.
It's a debate. It's a debate, not an interview.
Oh.
But I made it clear. I said, look.
Why don't you debate Piltdown Man? Jesus, that's easy.
Because we've already done it and it's very boring. But here's the thing I told him. I said, look, when we talk about the word evolution, it's going to mean modern evolutionary synthesis. If you don't want to accept that, then don't use the word evolution, or at least we will say modern evolutionary synthesis when we mean the word evolution. And I'm going to be moderating, so I'm not really going to be much in the debate. But I mean, when I tell people a question, if I use the word evolution, that's how I'm going to be using it, as modern evolutionary synthesis. And the other thing was, you know what? If you're going to give us information about young Earth creationism that refutes these things, make it current. I want something in the last at least decade to 2 decades at most for back. Don't sit there and go back to fucking 1906 or something. Yeah. Oh, look at Heigel's drawings. Yeah. No, first of all, we could discuss Heigel's drawings. I don't think he committed fraud. I don't care about it. It had to do with ontology. Recapitulation of phylogeny. It has nothing to do with the topic. I don't want any of that low-brow fucking nonsense, right? So
and ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny is about Aristotle's ladder of evolution, not specifically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I don't. What the hell does it have to do with anything modern now? So I want them to be relevant. I want it to be current. I want it to be up to date. I think human chromosome 2 is a great topic for them. Yeah. I think that the Schweitzer's work. He's talked to Mary Schweitzer before. That's wonderful. That kind of stuff. You guys agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you read that paper, Schweitzer's paper? I would have.
Oh yes, I read at least two from her.
Okay, good.
And I also looked at the one that actually confirmed her findings for the iron preservation. I didn't understand that one, but I actually wrote to her before, and I've actually wrote to a colleague of her. I've never got a response back. He knows, he's written to her before. Maybe he can get in touch with her. I would love to get Mary in a hangout, but she's never replied to me, so I don't know if she's even getting my emails. I think if she got my emails, she would. She seems like a nice person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I would love. It would be interesting to hear the young Earth people talk about the rock strata and why you have the.
Yeah.
They do want to talk about this. Yeah. And what we looked at his guy's geology, and that's one of my weaker areas. But even I could point out, holy fuck, this was just nonsense. He's talking about like how alluvial things are laid down, and the fine silt is laid down by turbulent water, and it's just like, okay, how does this happen? How do you get the sedimentation layers by what you're saying here? That makes no sense to me.
If the flood happened, and then all the fossils should be mixed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
the people below, in the Cambrian or whatever.
I think they're using the argument. Well, higher forms of life ran away faster, therefore they're at higher levels.
God, not the G-man running away thing. Oh, jeez,
I don't know.
Explosion.
I have actually heard that.
I know.
Oh God.
Again, I don't want to have these kinds of like bullshit, things that if they bring up the kind of stuff. So I don't think they will, but who knows, right?
Well, that whatever the explanation is, though, they need to say it. So
yeah, no, it's fine. No, if they say something like that, then you know what? I expect Rumpus and the general, because I know they have enough competency to destroy these fucking arguments. Come on, we're dealing with Rumpus and general. These guys are knowledgeable about this shit. They could rip these guys to shreds if they use kind of really, silly arguments like that.
Just basic logic, yeah.
Yeah. Well, nobody said you're good at basic logic, but
Steve.
Better than you, Steve.
I gotta wrap this up. Take the last word. I gotta wrap this up. I gotta call my mom. Important.
Okay, but
when is that debate?
A week from today.
A week from today. All right.
Yeah, I'll keep you guys posted. Okay. So to everyone, thank Thank you for your Patreon. Thank you for everything you do for me. I do appreciate it. I do got to run though. So